Chapter 426, The Flames of War. The Phoenix Empire battles the Western Yan. Here, you know the prices and I leave all the managing to you. It's your wish on how many servants you want to hire and how much salary you will give them. I'm allotting a maximum of 500 gold coins for the salaries. As for Meng Tao, he is already hired as the assistant manager, and his salary is percentage basis just like you. It's just that you will get 2% and he will get 1%. Depending on the earnings and the sales, you might get a bonus or a salary hike. The most important rule you will have to remember is that you have to sell it from the store just like how we do here. I will you the best of luck in your new journey, Chang Bo. Meng Tao, I hope you too will do your job without disappointing me. After reminding him what he needed to know, Mark gave a send-off to Chang Bo and Meng Tao. As a result, Alan returned to his original job, although there won't be any customers for a while for the android to sell the weapons. A couple of days later, the preparations for the coronation ceremony of Western Yan's new king are going in full swing. The kings of the Eastern Sun and Western Moon have already confirmed their participation. On that day, they will gift the new king with their formal acknowledgement. As for the other empires in the continent, Kilin Empire and Kun Empire outrightly rejected the invitation as they don't want to become the enemies of the Phoenix Empire. The Dwarven Kingdom cannot interfere in the matters of the humans, so the dwarves will also be absent. The Leon Empire, on the other hand, neither rejected nor accepted. The Emperor of the Shi dynasty decided to wait until the Phoenix Empire finally acts. Depending on the result, they will change their stance. But spiritually, the Emperor was on the side of the Western Yan, as it would lessen the strength of the Southern Empire. And the main player, Shang Fu, gathered his 3 current generals, 2 retired generals of which one of them was reinstated as the stand-in for the Northern Army, sect leaders and their elders, elite adventure teams from various guilds, and finally, the 3 Supreme Realm experts, including Lan Ju Aka Wu Weibao. While the army was slowly marching to the west, the 3 Supreme Realm experts flew at their respective paces and reached their destination in different time intervals. Lan Ju was the first to arrive there, and he didn't attack the soldiers on the front line. Instead, he zoomed past them and put up act with the gold dragon and the skis by the time the remaining 2 caught up with him after they casually attacked the enemy soldiers standing in their way. As a result, Western Yan lost a couple of LARS systems, 7 rank 5 robots, more than 20 rank 3 robots and robot dogs, and roughly about 120 foot soldiers. Song Tai and Huang Ming reached Lan Ju, who appeared to be on a stalemate with the dragon. As they were about to support him to slay the Beast Emperor, the Zhang first warned them not to interfere in his battle and further reminded them to go on their way in order to fulfill their respective missions. According to what they have discussed earlier, Wu Weibao Lan Ju will handle the gold dragon while the remaining 2 supremes will take a Feng Wu, his guardian and his contracted demon, if exist. Following the plan, Huang Ming and Song Tai left the gold dragon and flew toward the palace. Surprisingly, no guard stood outside of the palace to even block their way. Adding on top of that, their senses cannot penetrate the building. The 2 experts assumed that it is probably done by the so-called Feng Wu's demon and further concluded that Feng Wu's soldiers were hiding in the palace to ambush them. However, with the 2 of them working together, they felt only a demigod has the power to defeat them. Hence, they confidently barged into the palace without caring whether there are traps or not. It was there they received another shock. The whole palace was empty. No soldiers were hiding. No maids, no Feng Wu, and no hostages either. Instead, they could only sense one presence. Huang Ming and Song Tai looked at each other and meaningfully nodded before going on their way to the courtroom, where they saw a handsome youth sitting on the throne and welcoming them with a smile. "Hello there, my human friend said I should be courteous with the both of you. He asked me to give you a choice, especially for you, Mr. Song. So here it is." Demon King Baal put forth an option before Song Tai as Mark thought that Song Yue would feel sad if her ancestor dies in the war. Surrender yourself and become our prisoner or be punished along with your companion. What will be your decision? Song Tai furrowed his brows in displeasure. We knew about you from the start, and we are here to kill you, demon. The Demon King lets out a fake sigh and commented, each to their own decision. Nothing can be done about it. He stood up from the throne, and his two opponents went into their battle stance. It was then Baal raised his hand and snapped his fingers with a smile on his face. The surroundings changed immediately to that of an endless barren land without anything else. The eyes of Song Tai and Huang Ming widened in great shock as they looked around. An illusion, Song Tai wondered out loud. Huang Ming shook his head in extreme seriousness. This isn't an illusion, brother Song Tai. This is called the domain. Domain? Song Tai's heart skipped a beat for a second and abruptly turned his head to look at his comrade. A demigod. As Huang Ming nodded seriously, Song Tai didn't hesitate to take out a bow staff from his storage ring and shocked his teammate as well as their enemy at the same time. A divine-grade weapon, Huang Ming and Demon King Baal sounded at the same time. Placing the bow staff with a golden ring around its center firmly on the ground, Song Tai spoke. You underestimated the Phoenix Empire's imperial family. They might not have a strong expert within the army, but there is a reason why the Shang dynasty has been successfully ruling this southern empire for more than 1780 years. Earlier you gave me the option to choose. Now I will give you a choice. Return to your underworld and sever your Khan. Before he finished his warning, all of a sudden, a sharp, pointy energy broad blade erupted from the ground and pierced Song Tai's body at an unimaginable speed. Upon piercing his body, the energy blade transformed into demonic energy and invaded his body, paralyzing him. Thud! The bow staff fell to the ground, and Song Tai was frozen like a statue before falling onto his back. Looking down at Song Tai, the Demon King snorted. Humph! A fool talking nonsense in the middle of a battle. You are the one who underestimated me. You should actually be thankful that my friend doesn't want you dead. Meanwhile, Huang Ming rushed toward Song Tai in a flash and grabbed the bow staff, and spoke to the weapon while creating an ether energy barrier around himself. I don't know your name, but please grant us your strength. I request you to allow me to wield you for a while. The bow staff glowed for a second and became lighter. At the same time, a divine energy shield was formed over him. Thank you. Huang Ming didn't waste in speaking dialogues and charged forward with the bow staff. Baal looked untroubled. He calmly stared at the opponent as the latter reached him and swung down the bow staff. Baal ducked in a timely manner and raised his right hand. Lightning bursts out of his palm in the form of a concentrated beam of energy and struck the divine shield. The shield couldn't block Baal's attack, and the lightning beam broke through his defenses, making a hole out of his chest in the middle. Baal fell onto his right knee. Clenching his fist, he tried to heal his wound by using ether energy, but for some reason, the hole wasn't closed and the blood continued to pour down. The Demon King broke out into laughter. Did you forget that you are in my domain? Here I set the rules, and one of my 3 rules bans the healing altogether. Ha 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 ha. Huang Ming could only raise his head and look at the laughing demon in deep hatred. Chapter 427. The flames of war died out before it properly burned. In the skis of Gong City, Lan Ju was in a fierce battle against Jinlong. The latter was in the form of a gold dragon, while the former was using a weapon that looks like the Imperial Phoenix Bow, also known as the Bow of the Shangs. The Imperial Phoenix Bow is first used by the Shang dynasty's founder to overthrow the Xia dynasty, and is passed to one emperor, and then the next. Emperor Shang lent it to Wu Weibao/Lan Ju to defeat the gold dragon, but Mark has entirely different plans for the weapon. It cannot be subdued, and Mark doesn't want to subdue it or erase its will either. He intends to destroy the Shang dynasty's pride. But for the weapon to fall into his hands for good, he would have to stage Lan Ju's death. And it should happen in front of the soldiers of the Empire, so that he would have enough witnesses for the weapon getting looted by the dragon, and their morale also gets reduced in the process. Of course, Mark wouldn't take the risk of letting the divine-grade weapon escape to its master as soon as its current wielder falls down. Hence, he placed it in the inventory and handed the divine throne to Lan Ju. The divine throne was transformed into a bow resembling the imperial bow. Lan Ju, on the other hand, has 5 basic attributes. Hence, he used fire energy arrows to make it seem like the bow was a real deal. The fight between them went on for at least 7 hours. During this time, the LARS systems operated by Rank 3 robots were randomly firing missiles at the incoming freelance adventurers and volunteering sect disciples to keep them away. And those who escaped it and advanced forward were hunted down by the snipers, Rank 5 robots. The Rank 5 robots might not be able to pour ether energy into their sniper rifles, but they have a perfect aim. With just normal ammunition, they were able to target the eyes and other vulnerable parts of the enemies. After a few losses, the elite adventurers and elite disciples of various sects managed to protect their eyes and other vulnerable parts with an energy shield. But they still couldn't get near Feng Wu's army, as the bandits turned soldiers were using grenades of various types and rocket launchers to defend their home. Furthermore, the weapons in Feng Wu's hands have far higher than the traditional archers from Phoenix Empire. Hence, even the ranged attacks couldn't become successful. Hence, everyone could only hope for 6 Circle and 7 Circle Realm experts to arrive as fast as possible and make a way for them. And 7 hours after, when the Supreme Realm experts broke through the enemy's frontline, Phoenix Imperial Army arrived and surrounded the enemies from 3 different directions. Sect leaders, clan heads, guild leaders, generals, and all invited powerful individuals were also in that bunch. However, they weren't attacking and only set up camps around. They were waiting for the results from their 3 trump cards that were currently in the middle of the enemy's territory. In the Emperor's camp, Shang Fu and the other important figures were waiting for the result. The Gold Dragon and Lan Ju were seen in the skis, but the other 2 were nowhere seen. Even Feng Wu, his nephew, and the others weren't sighted anywhere by the spies. Obviously, Shang Fu was anxious. And about an hour later, around 3 p.m., when the temperature outside slowly cooled down because of the cloudy weather, the Emperor's fears had come true. An elder of the MT, Hua sect entered the tent with a panicked expression, "Your Majesty." What happened? The Emperor turned more anxious as he rose from his seat. The others followed suit, as they cannot sit when the Emperor is standing. The elder replied with his voice shaking in worry, Venerable Wu is no more." "What? The Gold Dragon won?" Emperor Shang was naturally shocked to hear it. After all, the Gold Dragon and Wu Weibao should be of equal strength originally, but with the divine grade item, the latter still should have one even if he couldn't use it to its full potential because of the lack of ownership over the weapon. The elder nodded. Everyone has witnessed Venerable Wu has fallen and was eaten by that monster. Shang Fu quickly closed his eyes and raised his hand. He attempted to summon the Imperial Bow back to him, but there was no answer. "My connection to the Imperial Bow has been severed." Shang Fu felt heavy pain in his chest. His legs lost their strength and his body collapsed on the seat. "Your Majesty." Bai Zun attempted to grab him in concern. The Emperor waved his hands while taking heavy breaths. "I'm all right." Meanwhile, some of the clan elders and the crown prince were rejoicing in their heads, thinking that the weapon seller has lost his greatest backing, and he doesn't seem invincible anymore. At the same time, Shang Zexi also thought that he got an opportunity to ascend to the throne. As for the others who were genuinely worried about the welfare of the Empire, their morale was hit. Heaven Sect's representative, an 8 Circle Realm expert named Chen Hong, then tried to showcase his optimism by stating, "Your Majesty, there's nothing to be worried about. Venerable Huang and Venerable Song are a great threat to them. That is probably why they were dragged away from the city to someplace far away. I'm sure that they will return victorious." "Do you really think so?" Shang Fu looked at him in hope. Cheng Hong nodded with a smile. "Our patriarch once said that Huang Ming is invincible under the demigod realm if he fights seriously. There's no way Feng Wu's demon will defeat him. Shang Fu then thought of the untamed divine-grade item he secretly gave to Song Tai on his son's advice. His mood became slightly better and replied, Lu Zhen is a friend of our imperial family. Today, he lost a great asset, but we will not let Venerable Wu's sacrifice to go waste. We will defeat the enemies and end this war before the sunset. Before anyone else reacted to his bold announcement, everyone heard a voice in the surroundings. You are right. The war will end before the sunset, but I'm afraid you won't be able to avenge him. As everyone in the tent became extremely alert, Shang Fu shouted, Who is it? Show yourself. In response to his shout, a figure materialized out of nowhere with two unconscious bodies, each on a shoulder. Thud! Bale threw them onto the ground, stupefying everyone before making an announcement in the form of a warning. Consider this as our mercy. Within an hour, all of your forces must leave the borders, or else you will see thousands of dead bodies. The Demon King disappeared without bothering to hear the other party's response. But then again, no one is in a state to speak out. They were scared to death at the moment, and their morale was at the bottom. Even this optimistic Chen Hong had his legs shivering as he was staring at the two unconscious Supreme Realm experts, whose cultivations were destroyed. They were nothing more than two old men now. Your Majesty, Bai Zun looked at his brother-in-law who was staring at the two men for a while. As there is no response, Bai Zun shook Shang Fu's shoulder and forcefully brought him to reality. What just happened, Bai Zun? Asked the Emperor as he came to his senses. Bai Zun bitterly smiled as he replied, We lost the war, Your Majesty. Chapter 428, Weapon Transmutation. As Shang Fu was discussing their next course of action at the border of Western Yan, meanwhile, at Genesis Weapon Store, Imperial City. Despite there being no customers for the past few days, the store was still kept open so that people know Mark is at his house. Usually he sits at the counter and chats with his fiancée, but right now he is in his room. Of course, he wasn't sleeping. Mark was staring at a specific item in his inventory and wondering whether it is really okay to destroy it just because he hates the imperial family. The weapon is bound to Shang Fu, so it can never be mine to use. It is quite possible that the weapon could escape the moment I let it out of the inventory. To sever its connection with Shang Fu and forcefully bind it to me requires 1 billion credits. I don't have such an amount of money to give to the system. Even if I have, I wouldn't still do it. This bow is not just worth it. I can keep this with me and use it as a bargaining chip in the future. But I will lose 25 million credits, 125 million gold coins if I do that. But then again, neither 25 million nor the Phoenix Empire would become important in my life. If only I could find a way to extract the materials and use them to build home. Wait a second. All of a sudden, something clicked inside Mark's head, and he quickly went to the system store and clicked on the skills section. He then scrolled down to the bottom and explored the unique skills. He stopped scrolling down after finding what he was looking for. Yup, this is the one. His face beamed in excitement as he pressed his finger on the skill, Weapon Transmutation. Ding, 1 million credits have been deducted. Weapon Transmutation has been added to the skill section. Weapon Transmutation Level 1. With a touch on an item, the user could extract all the raw materials used in making it. Currently, it only works on ungraded items. Cost, NACD, 12 hours. Seeing Level 1 glowing beside the skill name, Mark wasn't discouraged by its description and clicked on the level. Ding, proceed for the upgrade. 1 million credits will be deducted. Yes, Mark proceeded without hesitation. Ding, 1 million credits have been deducted. Weapon Transmutation skill has been upgraded to Level 2. Mark read its new description. The upper limit is increased to bronze. Let's continue. Ding, 1 million credits have been deducted. Weapon Transmutation skill has been upgraded to Level 3. Ding, 1 million credits have been deducted. Weapon Transmutation skill has been upgraded to Level 4. Ding, 1 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to level 5. Okay, I reached platinum, but it isn't enough. From here the fee will increase, but it's all right. I have enough credits anyway. Ding, 2 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to level 6. Ding, 3 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to level 7. Ding, 4 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to level 8. Damn, the price is getting skyrocketed for the divine grade items, but it doesn't matter. I will sacrifice all of the semi-divine weapons if I have to earn more credits. Let's proceed. Ding, 10 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to level 9. Ding, 20 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to level 10. Ding, 30 million credits have been deducted. Weapon transmutation skill has been upgraded to maximum level. 74 million credits. 370 million gold coins. Mark couldn't help but stare at the remaining balance in a daze, realizing that he had indeed spent too much. It was then he remembered about a certain side quest. System, open the quest list. Side quest III. Spent a total of 100 million credits in the system store, 99.2%. Reward, Staff of Blessing, the Lamp of Wishes. Well, in the end, despite trying to postpone it in order to save money, I almost completed it after all. Should I go ahead and purchase something now? Mark fell into thinking. The war is almost over, and Elena would still need a few upgrades to qualify to help him now that she lost her weapon. Of course, he can still give her another semi-divine weapon, but none of the possessed items were suitable to her as the doomed scythe. Anyways, let's not care about those things right now and focus on the present. We will handle one problem after another. Mark doesn't know the exact reason, but he just doesn't want to resurrect Elena yet, at least not before he takes revenge against her culprit, the Necromancer King. In the end, he abandoned the idea of completing the quest and closed down the window. He opened the skills once again. Weapon Transmutation Max. With a touch on an item of any grade, ungraded god, the user could extract all the raw materials used in making it. Cost, NACD, 5 seconds. Mark clicked on the skill and activated it. Ding, touch the object you desire to use the skill on. Open inventory. He clicked on the bow, only details appeared. Ding, you need to physically touch the object for it to work. The system reminded him without asking. I see, Mark nodded, and then took a deep breath before summoning it to the outside world. The Imperial Phoenix bow probably realized the situation. A powerful screech escaped from the bow while it turned into hot flames. Mark groaned in pain, but it only lasted for a second before the majestic bow was surrounded by the golden glow and eventually turned into specks of light. Ding, the Imperial bow of Phoenix has been salvaged. Ding, you extracted 8 kg of adamantium 12, 4 kg of mithril phoenix orb 78% purity, 40 kg of heavenly jade dust, and the hair of the white dragon emperor. Check out your inventory. A phoenix orb, heavenly jade's dust. Mark opened the inventory and clicked on the raw material he was hearing for the first time. Phoenix orb. Purity 78%. Description. An orb that contained the energy of the mythical beast, Phoenix. The purity has been lost because of the mixture of the energies of various wielders across history. Effects. The orb can be used in making a semi-divine or higher-grade weapon. It can also be directly consumed by the user to acquire the Phoenix bloodline, although the process has a high risk of death. Heavenly jade dust. Status crystalline. Weight 40 kg. Description. An element found only in the celestial plane. Jade crystal is the god's equivalent version of the ether crystal. Effects. Useful in making mithril and celestial grade items. Useful in making an aphrodisiac that works even against the gods. Reading the description made him remember the ether powder he unlocked in the gallery. A doubt rose in his head. He asked, System, I want to know the grade of ether crystals your ether powder is made of." The system was ready with its reply. Ding! After extracting the ether energy from the crystals, the system prepares the ether powder as follows. 1. Copper-grade ether powder is purely a powdered form of a low-grade ether crystal. 2. Silver-grade ether powder is purely made from middle-grade ether crystal. 3. Gold-grade ether powder is a mixture of middle-grade and high-grade ether crystals with a ratio of 3:1. 4. Platinum-grade ether powder is the same mixture as earlier, but the ratio this time is 1:3. 5. Semi-divine grade powder, diamond, crystal, and ruby is purely made from the powdered form of high-grade ether crystals. 6. Mithril grade needs peak-grade ether crystals. 7. Celestial grade ether powder can be made from various elements like the heavenly jade crystals, black jade crystals of the Hell Realm, obsidian of the mortal plane, Qing Jiang and Zhen Zhu of the Undying Lands, and so on. The system prefers to use the jade crystals of heaven. 8. God-grade ether powder can only be made from cosmic dust, also known as interstellar dust from space. Obsidian, are you fucking serious? Mark's jaw dropped in shock as he saw that obsidian powder is used to make celestial-grade weapons. Obsidian is nothing but volcanic glass that is formed when lava cools rapidly and solidifies without crystallizing. It is most commonly found in areas where volcanic activity has occurred and is probably the easiest to acquire. Damn, I should have asked you about this earlier. By now, I would have collected tons of obsidian from all over the world. Chapter 429. Mark demands the emergency assembly. 30 minutes later, Emperor Shangfu ordered the withdrawal of troops. 60 minutes later, the Demon King made a visit to Mark and handed over the divine-grade weapon, the bow staff, as he cannot take it with him to his world. This weapon, Mark frowned as he read the details. It turned out to be Ruyi Jingu Bang, the weapon of Sun Wukong from the legends. However, it was slightly a disappointment for Mark, as a weapon with such legendary status is nothing but a low-quality divine-grade item, mithril grade. Mark kept it in his inventory as he has yet to decide what to do with it. The system recommended it for Alan, but as he already had a better divine-grade weapon, Mark felt like it doesn't make any sense to hand it to him. At the same time, he couldn't extract raw materials through weapon transmutation or dismantle them through Devil Hand because of the availability of upgrades. As long as he uses superior grade upgrade stone on it, he could upgrade it to celestial grade. Then, he can decide whether he should dismantle it or not. After sending away the Demon King back to his realm, Mark then thought about his next move. But as it cannot be rushed, he waited for the right time. About 7-8 hours later, Emperor Shangfu and the other officials reached the imperial city, which is currently protected by the second prince and his troops in the absence of the emperor. It was already dark by the time he arrived, and he was probably so affected by the result of the war that he forgot about informing Mark regarding the death of Wu Weibao. He slept without eating any food that evening. However, Mark was quite happy to not get any formal letter from the imperial palace. He felt like he found an opportunity to get into a feud with the emperor. The following morning, Feng Wu's messenger turned official ambassador, Huo Fen, along with his royal tutor, arrived at the palace with their official proposal of peace, although it's more like a list of demands. According to it, the entire Western Yan, which used to be in the control of the Feng dynasty before it was overthrown by the Phoenix Empire, will be handed back to them. The Phoenix Empire will not only formally acknowledge Western Yan as an independent kingdom, but also give a written guarantee that the Empire's army will never start an unprovoked war in the future. As a part of compensation for looting the Feng dynasty for several years, the Phoenix Empire shall be giving 1 million gold coins a year for the next decade. Finally, the emperor or any prince shall attend the coronation ceremony of the king, which is happening in 2 days of time. In return, the war will be stopped. All the hostages will also be released. Of course, the royal tutor of Western Yan didn't forget to add that there were no negotiations on their terms. It's all or nothing. Emperor Shang was trying his best to control his rage this time. He wanted to kill both of them, but he couldn't do it as it will only invite doom to the empire with the loss of 2 divine-grade items and Song Tai turning mortal. In the end, he agreed to the conditions and stamped the imperial seal right away. After their job is done, both of them left the palace and made their way toward the Hanga district, located in the outer sector of the imperial city. As Mark already knew about their visit beforehand, he opened the store. "Good morning, welcome to Genesis Weapon Store." Alan greeted the customers with a genuine smile on his face. He was really happy to see someone coming in even if it is a familiar face. Mark was also happy, but for a different reason. As the android greeted the customers, his master spoke. "I was waiting for both of you." "His Highness ordered me to give this to you," replied Huo Fen as he took out a storage ring from his pocket and placed it on the desk. Mark grabbed it and poured his consciousness into the ring to check the contents. It didn't have any treasures or gold as Huo Fen expected. There were only the destroyed robots and weapons inside. But Mark exactly wanted them too. He specifically instructed Feng Wu to collect them and send them back after the war is over. The system could repair them for a fee, but Mark is interested in studying them in his free time. As for why he couldn't just buy it and break it down to study them, Mark had that thought a couple of months ago, but the system warned him not to do that as it is considered disrespectful. Mark cannot go against the invincible, stubborn, and sassy system head-on. Hence, he could only find loopholes and exploit them. After confirming that the goods were there, Mark bid farewell to the both of them without intending to talk about their affairs for too long. He was aware that there are spies watching his store for a couple of days. As they left, Net's spy on the roof of a nearby residence quickly took out a special note from his pocket and wrote something with ether energy. Some time passed away, and the sun reached its peak position. Once again, the spider-shaped spaceship made its appearance at the Imperial Palace, this time without any appointment or so whatever. Perhaps the Imperial family has already guessed the reason for his visit. They sent the second prince to escort Mark and Alan to the Emperor's private chamber. However, Mark's intentions were never about claiming compensation, asking for an apology, or something. He wanted to break off the relationship with the Imperial family he developed until now. Hence, he had to act like he was mad. Giving off an angry look at the noble second prince, Mark rejected to have a private talk with the Emperor and further said, "General Shang, the things I wanted to talk about, I needed the Imperial courtroom. Would you be able to arrange a full audience of the ministers right now? At the very least, Nai Raogang should be here." "Is this about Venerable Wu?" asked the second prince, wondering whether Mark wants to complain or something. To which Mark shook his head in response, "Not exactly." Then, as the second prince tried to press for the truth, Mark replied, "I will only say that in the court. Brother Lu, His Majesty isn't in a situation where he can attend the courtroom session, and suddenly summoning the ministers without telling anything to them might create unnecessary panic. Please understand." And as the second prince was trying to convince Mark to attend a private meeting with the Emperor instead, Mark interrupted him with a statement. "I'm a weapons seller, and I cannot prefer one over another. Everyone who walks into the store is a customer no matter what kind of relationship I have with them. This is what the motto is. I put my ethic aside for the sake of the Imperial Palace and sacrificed a supreme being. I should deserve at least this much, right?" This. Chapter 430. I'm not here to seek answers. Sometime later, the 6 ministers and other important officials were arriving one after another and found Mark standing silently at the center of the court. Shang Wen was standing beside him. "Mr. Lu, what are you doing here? Is everything all right?" asked the current patriarch of the Lin clan, Lin Wang. However, Mark didn't speak a word. He just folded his hands and stared at the throne in silence. As Lin Wang gestured for Shang Wen to ask what this is all about, the general of the south could only shake his head, indicating he has no idea. The officials started murmuring, as they were glancing at Mark every once in a while. Soon, the crown prince and the third prince also arrived with the emperor. Until Shang Fu sits on the throne, Mark was mute and turned a deaf ear to his surroundings. He was in fact conversing with the emperor in his mind, going through the series of possibilities and how he should respond to each statement. The last time he came, he failed, but this time he won't fail. "Greetings, your majesty," spoke Mark in an unpleasant tone. The disrespect is clear in his behavior. Sighing inwardly, Shang Fu nodded and said, "I was informed that you want to speak in the presence of everyone. What is it?" Mark finally opened his mouth. "Your Majesty, let me start with something obvious. 2 days ago, we made a deal. I lend you Wu Weibao for a day, and in return, you pay me 6 million gold coins and one high-quality semi-divine weapon, ruby grade, after the war. Then, yesterday, you start the war and then decided to end it. You happily make a peaceful pact with the enemy after costing the life of Song Tai Tu. You didn't honor your promise. Wu Weibao died for no cause. I didn't get to bury him, and the imperial family didn't even bother to send me a letter." He raised his voice as he asked, "Why I had to hear the news of the death of Wu Weibao from your enemies? Tell me." His voice sounded like thunder as he echoed in the courtroom. The minister shuddered for a moment, and the emperor was forced to stand up in shock. He realized that he was so engrossed in the humiliation from the defeat that he forgot to inform Mark about the matter. Seeing the emperor looking at the floor in silence while tightly gripping the handrest, Mark pushed him further. "Do you think he is a hired mercenary? He is a supreme being. Maybe you don't care because he is not a servant of the imperial family. Or is it because you just didn't believe my words and thought that it is impossible to have two supreme beings on the side of the enemies?" "Owner Lu, the thing is..." The third prince wanted to speak on behalf of the emperor, but Mark didn't give him such an opportunity. He raised his hand, gesturing for him to stop. As Shang Wei shut his mouth, Mark said, "Whatever reason you might give me, I don't want to hear it, as I'm not here to seek answers but to relieve my frustration and leave the judgment to your subordinates. Please sit down and listen. Yesterday, I lost a servant who can even win me a kingdom, so I think I deserve at least that much." His 9 points of charm worked very much on the third prince and the other listeners. They stayed silent and let Mark speak everything he wants. Mark felt secretly happy that his plan is working very well. He decided to use his charm to its full extent and make sure to create an atmosphere of distrust in the courtroom by the time he leaves. Mark then returned his gaze toward his biological father once again and continued, "Now, coming to the second matter. Nai Raogang, please stand up." "Yes." Nai Raogang's heart skipped a beat for a second, wondering what this madman wants with him. As far as he can remember, there is no personal grudge between the both of them, except for the fact that he hired the Su sect to attack the third prince once, and Song Yue almost died that day. However, Mark went on to speak about a completely different matter. Without looking at him, Mark spoke. "On the dawn of the day, during the time when the Western Yan is captured, a few powerful assassins of the organization named Soul tried to assassinate a friend of mine named Zai Mei. After digging around, I found out that you are the one who gave them the task. Do you accept my accusation or deny it?" At that instant, everyone's gaze fell on Nai Raogang. Meanwhile, sweat beads appeared above the forehead of the crown prince. The Minister of Revenue looked in the direction of the nervous prince. The crown prince quickly reacted by rising to his feet and started acting as if he was betrayed. "Minister Nai, you are still in touch with that middleman. I told you that he is a bad business. Look where it got you now." "Prince Zexi, please explain yourself." The emperor reacted for the first time. He was displeased upon realizing that his son was really involved with that mysterious terrorist organization. Previously, he thought it was something Shang Wei made it up and only put his son under investigation. However, he wasn't serious and was only trying to ease up the successor that he decided on. But it looks like he had to take this seriously. The crown prince turned toward his father and bowed. "I apologize, Your Majesty. I want to keep this under wraps, but I had to reveal the truth now. The truth is that I and Minister Nye have been in touch with the Soul Organization for a while. We regularly use them to eliminate the rebellious elements to safeguard the Empire from the shadows. I was afraid of getting punished by revealing it to His Majesty, and it is a huge crime to lie to His Majesty either. So, I could only keep it a secret. After the arrest of Song Yun, the Revenue Department was put under heavy scanner, and we couldn't use the funds to do the job anymore. Hence, we decided to stop. But not so long after, Minister Nye met a stranger who somehow knew about our relationship with the Soul Organization. He brought missions and used to give him a 25% commission. I was against it as it is too risky, but Minister Nye thought that we can resume our operation using those funds coming from the middleman. I told him to not trust strangers who unnecessarily give too much money, but he didn't listen. Your Majesty, I request you to forgive him for his mistake. Minister Nye is working for the welfare of the Empire, even if it is something that didn't reward him. As the Emperor's gaze softened, the Crown Prince then shifted his attention to Mark and apologized to him while putting aside his ego. Rather than denying the facts, he thought it is better to cook up a story on the spot. More than easing up his father, he was afraid of this weapon seller who doesn't care about the background of his enemy and just go wild. Chapter 431, Forsaking the Homeland. In the eyes of the Crown Prince, Mark might not be strong enough to defeat the entire Imperial army, but his weapons could definitely kill him. Shang Zexi loves his life, and he wants to be safe than sorry. Mark was also quite surprised by how convincing the Crown Prince's story was, but he had something up his sleeve to counter that. Turning toward the Crown Prince, he then replied, "Suppose you are sleeping on your bed. Suddenly someone tries to kill you, but you escape and catch the culprit. The culprit turns out to be Alan. When you confront Alan, he says that he was ordered by me. Then you come to me and I say that I was given money by someone to put a bounty on top of you. Even if that someone gets caught, will you leave me and Alan if we simply apologize and say it wasn't on purpose, or you will put us under trial?" The Crown Prince fell into a dilemma, whether he should abandon Nai Raogang or not. It is a fact that Nai Raogang did this behind his back, and he was angry at him for this, but they are in cahoots with each other in every crime they committed. If Nai Raogang opens his mouth, forget about succeeding his father. The Crown Prince should worry about his own life. As a result, he felt like he had two options to choose. 1. Burn the bridges and kill Nai Raogang. 2. Continue to stick with him by trying to cool down the weapon seller while putting aside his ego once again. Shang Zexi had chosen the second path, and he cupped his fists once again and bowed. Minister Nye has made a mistake, but in these times of chaos, he is necessary for the Empire. I hope you forgive him as long we compensate you with material wealth. If Mark takes that offer, he would lose the excuse of acting against the Imperial Palace. But he cannot just show a stuck-up attitude when one is in a high position such as the Crown Prince bowing before him in front of everyone. Hence, he waved his hand and continued to be stern. As I have told you guys earlier, I'm not here to seek compensation or answers. Since you have already accepted my accusation, let me continue. There's more to listen. The third prince and the emperor felt a headache, not knowing how to deal with this troublesome fellow. The Crown Prince sat down, and Mark continued by returning his gaze to his biological father. Thirdly, I want to tell you the reason behind my settlement in the Imperial City. It wasn't because of the business. Then, everyone curiously stared at him, wondering what it might be. Mark then revealed half of the truth. When I was 15 years old, a burglar intruded into our house, ransacked our money, and killed my parents. The authorities kept their mum, and the nobles disregard the incident as it is something common in their eyes, and the lives of commoners aren't a big deal in the eyes of people like you. Back then I'm powerless, but today I'm not. I went against my fate and attained the power I desired. I came here to find out the killers of my family. But later on, I discovered that the killers are none other than the assassins of the Soul Organization, and the one who gave them the mission is the Grand Secretariat, Li Zhengkang. This time, the shock was so great that every single official stood on their feet. Even the emperor is no exception either. And obviously, Shang Fu didn't believe those accusations just like the rest of them. This time, he defended his late minister. There's no way Grand Secretariat Li was involved in. As he was speaking, he suddenly remembered the word traitor on the forehead of Li Zhenkang. Shang Fu then changed his words to a question. Are you the one behind his death? Prepared for such a question beforehand, Mark shook his head. No, I'm not. I only found this out today. I always had suspicions that someone from the imperial family is involved, but I didn't expect it to be the Grand Secretariat of all the people. Feeling odd about Mark's explanation, Shang Wei then asked a series of questions. Who told you that? What evidence do you have against Grand Secretariat Li? And most importantly, why do you suspect that someone from the imperial family is involved in the death of your parents? They were just normal people and even lived far away from us. How were they related to our family? Mark pointed his finger at the emperor. The man sitting on the throne is the one they had a relationship with. As for the one who told me the truth, it was the contracted demon of Feng Wu. He claimed that when he killed the Grand Secretariat and saw his memories to find out any useful intel about the experts supporting the throne, he found out that Grand Secretariat was following the orders of the late Dowager Empress in killing all the women who this noble emperor had violated, so that his dignity remains intact in the eyes of the public. Even their children aren't spared. If I tell you that the number of such women is more than 100, would you believe it? If I tell you that more than 40 children born with the blood of Shang were killed, would you believe it? And one of those pitiful women was my late mother, who served in this imperial palace as a maid. She left the city and married my father later on. Their happiness became complete when I was born to them, and we were living a peaceful life until your Grand Secretariat found out her existence and sent the assassins. Had I not been rescued by an expert that day, I would have died that day with my parents too. The moment I learned of the truth, I want to massacre every single person from your family, but those who are directly responsible passed away, and attacking you people will just make me a traitor of my motherland. However, I'm too disgusted with the actions of His Majesty that I cannot sit by and ignore them as if nothing happened. Hence today, I'm here to spill the truth in front of everyone before leaving this place for good. I received a marriage proposal from the Western Moon Kingdom a while ago, and soon I will be engaged to Princess Shen Ling. It'll be my new home, but despite my feelings, I will keep my word and fulfill the conditions of every agreement I made with the Imperial Palace. If your army requires my firearms, your representative may visit the store and purchase them as a customer. I won't mistreat my customers no matter who they are. Now that I have said everything I want to, it is time for me to leave. Goodbye, Your Majesty. This might be the last time I will be addressing you as such. From tomorrow onwards, you are no longer my emperor and I'm no longer your citizen. Leaving everyone in a daze, Mark turned around and started walking away. His footsteps are probably the only sounds that the officials could hear at the moment. And surprisingly, the emperor was the first to come out of his stupor and called him out. Wait, Shang, Lu Zhen. Stop. Mark continued to walk away, not noticing the slip-up from the emperor. On the other hand, Shang Wei fell into deep thought, analyzing the known truths and the ones Mark spouted earlier. Chapter 432, Shang Wen's Opinion. Emperor Shang didn't follow Mark, and neither did he order anyone to stop him either. He just collapsed on the throne with a look of disappointment. The ministers and the officials stayed silent, as they don't know what to say now. They want to say that Mark is a liar, but deep down, they were aware that their beloved emperor is a skirt chaser back when he is a young man. It is just that they don't know that the number is so high. What's more, Grand Secretariat Li and even the emperor's mother was involved in something like this. It was also a shocking thing for them. As they looked at each other to say something, in the end, the Minister of Law and Justice, the Zhang clan's patriarch, was forced to speak out the voices of his fellow ministers. Your Majesty, please tell us that he is lying. If the citizens hear of this matter, they will lose their trust in the emperor. There will be protests." He raised his voice slightly, but then followed with an apology. The emperor was unresponsive, and this made the Zhou clan's patriarch, the minister of board and rights, shakes his head in realization and speak his voice aloud. He cannot, because it is true. The rest of the officials, who were mere spectators, started murmuring among themselves. "Excellent Minister Zhang, you perfectly hit the iron when it is hot," the crown prince thought in his head and tried his best not to smile. If there was someone who was very celebrating over this fact, it was the crown prince. In his mind, he was preparing to dethrone his father and ascend it before Shang Wei gets an opportunity. Rising to his feet, he addressed the rest of the officials. "Everyone is dismissed. Please return to your homes." Slowly, the room was cleared, and only the imperial princes and Bai Zun remained with the emperor, who was resting his elbows on his knees while grabbing his forehead. Bai Zun walks up to his brother-in-law and patted his shoulder. "Your Majesty." Emperor Shang raised his head. He was trying his best to keep to not crying, but sorrow was clear on his face. His voice turned hoarse as he said, "I cannot believe Li Zhengkang and my mother do this to me behind my back. Li Zhengkang was a friend I trust with my life and all my secrets. How could he do this to me? I made mistakes when I was young, but I planned to rectify them by giving them the concubine status. However, they started disappearing one after another. Li Zhengkang told me that they ran away because of the fear of the society, but I had no idea that they were being hunted down." "Father, why must you behave like you are guilty when it is the fault of that traitor Li Zhengkang?" commented the crown prince, trying to gain some points with his father. He further added with wise statements, "And people make mistakes all the time. Which ancestor of ours didn't make such mistakes? The fact that you are feeling guilty about your past actions itself is something admirable. Most rulers don't even have the heart to acknowledge it even to themselves." Shang Zexi, emperor, looked like he was touched by the support given by his eldest son. He couldn't help but look at his other sons. The third prince stayed silent as he was too busy thinking. As for the second prince, he always considers himself a soldier when standing in the presence of his father. Hence, he had to keep his mouth shut in the courtroom. Even now, he stood there like a soldier without showing any emotion, but the emperor wants to hear that he isn't wrong out of this righteous son's mouth. "Say something, Shang Wen," he urged the second prince to speak. The second prince replied in a calm manner, "Forgive me, your majesty, if my words indicate any disrespect toward you, but you are the emperor and the role model for your citizens. The commoners treat you as a god in human flesh. Several schools of thought are trying their best to empower women all over the world, but you treat them as a sexual object. You have a sister who was married to Supreme Commander Bai. You also have a daughter who will marry a noble or a prince of other lands someday. What would you have done if those people will follow in the same footsteps as you? Can you swear on your soul that you won't get angry and try to understand them? But then again, the past is the past, and just being guilty about it doesn't change anything. If you want to repent, then you should at least compensate their families with material wealth along with an apology letter written by your hand. At the same time, you should also search for the victims who are still alive. It is possible that your illegitimate children are living somewhere. Regardless of your actions, I will still safeguard the southern provinces with my life. I'm a servant to the imperial throne, and I will not abandon my duty as long as I'm not retired. This is all I have to say." "Shang Wen, how could you talk like that?" The crown prince flared up at his brother as usual. Of course, this time there's a motive. He wants to get into his father's good books. To which the second prince responded with a long statement. "The longer you live in the darkness, the more sunlight will get painful. You would want to go back into darkness as you will be afraid of the sunlight. But when you decided to face it and bear it for a while, you will be able to witness what the world has to offer. The truth is something similar, Prince Zexi." Shang Wen's words of wisdom made the emperor realize something important. It was as if his mind became too clear, and all muddled thoughts vanished in an instant. The depression around him was gone, and a look of determination appeared on his face. Rising to his feet, he spoke. "Call back the ministers and the officials who left. Inform them that I'm going to make an important announcement. I need Shang Bo, the Empress, and the 2 queen consorts to be present too." "And Shang Wen?" "Your Majesty, you follow me to the Ancestry Hall. The rest will stay here," said the Emperor as he stepped down from the throne and walked toward the exit. Leaving behind everyone in confusion, the father and son pair left the courtroom. They took several lefts and rights in the palace before reaching the Ancestry Hall, where the paintings of the past emperors were displayed on the walls along with the statue of the founder. Shang Wen didn't know why they came here, but he didn't question him and just followed him in silence. His curiosity did increase when the emperor told him to shut the door. However, for the next minute, Emperor Shang just stared at the founder as if he was in deep thought. Shang Wen patiently waited. The silence finally ended when Shang Fu raised his hand and looked at the ring around his index finger. Chapter 433. Emperor Shang announces his retirement. He took out the scarlet feather of some bird from his storage ring and handed it to the second prince. "This has been passed down in our family for generations, and so far, it was used 2 times in history. When you feel like you need help, pour your ether energy into this feather. The phoenix will hear you and come to the rescue. However, it can only be used for 1 more time. Perhaps the war could be won if I used it, but deep down, I probably know that Western Yan isn't ours to begin with. It is an occupied territory. I guess I wasn't desperate enough to use this last remaining treasure of the Shang dynasty after losing both of our divine-grade weapons. Today, I will give you this so that it becomes your life-saving treasure." "But, Your Majesty, shouldn't this be handed to your successor?" Shang Wen was quite surprised when he heard the history behind this feather, which looked quite normal at one glance. Could it be that his father wanted to name him as his successor or something? Such thought came to his mind, and if that were the case, he would definitely talk him out of it. Shang Wen wasn't remotely interested to rule the empire. His goal is to succeed Bai Zun as the next supreme commander. That's all. Fortunately, even the emperor has the same opinion of him. He forced out a smile as he replied, "To be honest, you are a perfect candidate to be my successor, as you are righteous and don't have the greed for the throne. However, I'm also afraid that if you ascend to the throne, you will either lose your character that built so far, or your straightforwardness will be taken advantage of by the ministers, just like how they did to me. Hence, I want you to be the guardian of this land, just like Venerable Song. It is a pity that he lost his cultivation because of my short-sightedness, but this also taught me a good lesson. Only the demigods are powerful enough to protect this land." Placing his hand on the young man who looked quite identical to him, Shang Fu continued, "If you confine yourself in this place, you won't be able to become the demigod. I want you to travel to the higher plane of existence and train there. With the bloodline of Phoenix, I guess you will do fine. Come back when you make a breakthrough to the demigod realm and guard this land of our ancestors. Consider this a request from your father or an order from your emperor." "Your Majesty." Shang Wen doesn't know how to react for a few moments, but after a while he kneeled on one leg and saluted with a right fist on his chest. "Your wish is my command." Shang Fu raised his son up and gave him a hug and then said, "There's a world teleportation located on the island far away in the west. Decades ago, Lan Jensen and his associates came to this world through the same one. With it, you can travel to higher planes filled with denser spiritual energy. I don't know the exact location, but Lan Jingyi was aware of it." Shang Wen nodded in understanding while feeling a little bit emotional inside. However, he didn't show it. After a while, the confused ministers and the officials of various departments were waiting for the emperor's announcement, wondering what happened during the time they were away. Taking his seat on the throne, the emperor then addressed his officials. "What I am about to announce isn't something that was taken spontaneously. It has been on my mind for a while ago, but I postponed them due to various reasons. Because of the recent situation, I had to do this." Several high-level officials had the same thought. Is he going to announce his successor? Even the empress and the queen consorts had the same thought. After all, why else they would get summoned to the imperial court? Without betraying their suspicions, the emperor announced what they have been waiting for, but with a slight twist. 30 days from now, I'm going to formally relinquish my power as the ruler of the Phoenix Empire and name my successor. And during these next 4 weeks, my heir shall participate in the trial set by me, and based on the results, I will choose one. All the imperial princes who bear the surname Shang are qualified to participate in the trial. Everyone has 2 days for the preparation. Supreme Commander Bai will oversee the registrations of the qualified candidates. As the officials started murmuring among themselves while the ministers were looking at each other's faces, Shang Fu continued, "Here's my second announcement. I hereby declare the end of millennium-old traditions as the new emperor ascends to power, stripping the 6 major noble clans of their grasp over the ministries that have long been under their control." What? The ministers stood up from their seats in shock. The emperor is removing their positions. What kind of bullshit announcement is this? Clearly, no one is in favor of it. Seeing the reactions of the ministers, Emperor Shang raised his hand and raised his voice. "Sit down and listen until the end." As they reluctantly sat down, Shang Fu continued, "The empire will no longer be divided into 7 provinces. Every province will be divided into 2 further, except for the southern Yuan province, and each of the territories will be managed by one of your 6 major clans. As for the ministries, they will be managed by qualified scholars and will act independently just like the 3 departments. And my third announcement is that the following emperors or their relatives will no longer be above the laws. If he is guilty, he shall be punished after a complete investigation by the Law and Justice Ministry. He cannot use the imperial treasury as he wishes, just like I and my forefathers did. The Revenue Ministry must give its approval whether it is to spend money or borrow money as long as it crosses more than 1,000,000 gold coins. He cannot announce any public constructions without approval from the Public Works Ministry. He cannot go to war on a whim without the approval from the War Ministry. He cannot promote or dismiss an official without the approval from Board and Rights Ministry. He cannot make decisions without the approval from the Personal Ministry. However, he can also reject any propositions made by the ministry. That authority remains with the emperor. And if he wants to override the rejection from the ministries, he should have majority support, at least 3 out of 4, from the Supreme Commander, Grand Secretariat, Head of Central Secretariat Department, Chief Minister, Head of the Department of the State Affairs, and the Grand Chancellor, Head of the Chancellery. These decrees of mine will come into action when the new emperor succeeds me, and they cannot be removed by my successors for the next 3 generations, 100 years, unless it is a unanimous decision from the emperor, Supreme Commander, 3 department heads, 12 regional lords, and the 6 ministries. I want these announcements to be heard all over the empire within the next couple of days." That is all. Chapter 434, Unveiling Midnight Encounters. Genesis Weapon Store. Why? Zai Mei was taken aback as she was suddenly informed that they were leaving the city for good. She was someone who grew up in the mountains and rarely stepped out of the sect. The teenager liked this bustling city, and she often goes out to walk. And now she hears that they were moving to a secluded island that has no human population. Obviously, she didn't like it. But will Mark cares about her opinion? Naturally, he won't. He straightforwardly said to her, "You can stay here with Alan if you want. I don't intend to close down the store anyways." "Fine, you are the husband and the head of the family. Wherever you go, I have to follow," replied the teenager as she sat down. Mark was irritated at her comment, and he warned her, although not in a serious tone, "I believe we have an agreement that you won't address yourself as such until you were an adult. In the event you break the agreement, I can kick you out. Remember." Eek. As Zai Mei sprung up on her feet and hurriedly replied that she will not leave, Song Yue intervened and nicely told him not to tease her before informing her that they weren't actually living on an island, but will be shifting their new residence to the Lunaris city. "Ah, that's where your second wife lives," commented Zai Mei in realization. Mark couldn't help but frown when he heard that. "She isn't my wife, Zai Mei." "But will become one day, right?" countered the teenager. Mark then argued, "Yes, but when it happens, you can address her that way. Until then, she is the princess of the Western Moon Kingdom." Zai Mei stayed silent for a couple of seconds before asking Song Yue, "Sister Yue, I really want to ask something. Are you really comfortable with your Marquis, I mean Lu Zhen, to have another wife?" As Song Yue hesitated slightly, Mark replied in her place, "She is the one who convinced me to marry Princess Shen." "Yeah," Song Yue mumbled while nodding slowly. However, her expression was slightly uncomfortable. Maybe her growing attachment to Mark made her regret such a decision lately. It was then Mark added, "But then again, my marriage with Shen Ling is purely business. You can think of it like a business partnership. Even if I marry someone else in the future, it will be the same. Song Yue is the only one I love and I intend to stay that way. So you too should forget about your ambitions for the marriage, kid." "I'm not a kid. I'll turn 16 within a few weeks." Zai Mei almost screamed at Mark as she gets irked whenever he calls her that. She further added with a challenge, "And just you wait, I'll make you will fall head over heel for me and follow me like a puppy." "Ha, wishful thinking pancake. See, I knew you adore me, or else, why do call me by your favorite breakfast dish? You should stop denying it and marry me, okay?" "No, I actually meant something else. And you should stop irritating me, or else I will really send you back to your home." "Bleh, our destinies are tied. You are not going to send me away." "Destinies, what bullshit." As Mark and Zai Mei continued to bicker as usual, and making the atmosphere quite lively, Song Yue shook her head with a smile and went upstairs to pack her clothes. The afternoon passed away, and the darkness took over the Vermilion Bird continent. The manticore Zai Mei, Song Yue, and the golden kitten got into the vehicle. Mark gave a hug to his beloved android and said, "Alan, I leave this store in your hands. Once everything is finished as I planned, you may join me. Until then, take care of yourself. I know you can manage it on your own, but it is best if you hire someone so that you also won't get bored to be alone. You have unlimited access to my inventory, so don't need to wait for my permission to spend money or take out the goods to sell." "Affirmed," replied Mark with a salute. Mark then got onto the driver's seat and drove away from the vehicle. Alan waved his hands as a gesture of goodbye, and once the vehicle is out of his sight, he let out a deep sigh like a human and looked at the sky. "I hate times like this. It would be nice if there's indeed a person whom I can talk to without feeling uncomfortable." The image of a person came to his mind and he mumbled, "I wonder what Sister Zhu is doing right now. It's been a while since I last her. After that fiasco, we haven't met again. Let's go and meet her in the morning." A few hours later, Alan was walking back and forth in the upstairs living room while keep glancing at the wall clock. It's still 12:30. There are 5 more hours to go. As an android, he never needs to sleep. And previously, when he is a rank 5 android, he was more of a robot than a human. His thoughts weren't complicated. He could just sit in a spot for hours without thinking of anything. Now, after getting upgraded to rank 8, he has all the emotions that a human has. It's like he is a human born in the body of an android. He cannot sit still. He has massive data in his core and it was keep running, not letting him sit in peace. Not being able to resist the urge to see his only human friend, outside the Genesis weapon store family, Alan left the residence and flew to the inner sector. Because he is an android and lacked any traditional cultivation, he won't be sensed by any experts around. However, if he flies too fast, the sonic boom generated by him will cause disturbance, and he doesn't want to be caught by anyone's vision. Hence, he flew at a slow pace, and it took almost 30 minutes to reach Lin Wang's mansion. He came here many times and even knew what room at what residence his friend sleeps. Of course, even if he has no knowledge of it, there shouldn't be a problem. His hypersensors could spot her in an instant. Alan slowly intruded into the house and reached Lin Zhu's room, which was surprisingly lit up. The time was around 1 a.m., and Lin Zhu still appeared to be awake. She was seriously writing something in a notebook. At first, Alan planned to knock, but intending to surprise her, he scanned the room and saw that a window is opened. He flew around and then went in through the window, only to land on the bed and alerted her due to the creaking sound of the bed. As Lin Zhu abruptly turned around and saw Alan, she almost screamed, "All." She managed to control her voice with a look of surprise on her face. "What are you doing here?" she asked curiously before suddenly remembering the fact that he is a high-quality puppet of the weapons seller just like Elena. Depression took over her instantly before anger replaced it. Mark then said, "I'm here to see you." Oh, around 1 o'clock. Lin Zhu's expression changed and she acted coldly towards him. Chapter 435. Shattered Illusions. Alan's awakening to Lin Zhu's true feelings. It was the first time Alan saw coldness from Lin Zhu. He was familiar with her cold personality, but she never acted this way toward him. She was always warm and friendly. He doesn't know why she appeared angry. Maybe, is it because he disturbed her when she was in the middle of some important issue? Alan learned from Mark that he cannot just come to a conclusion based on a woman's behavior. Analyzing won't work for some women, as their actions don't have logic. Alan wondered whether Lin Zhu is one such woman. As he was busy thinking about the perfect reply, Lin Zhu then spoke. "I asked you a question, Mr. Alan. Why are you here at this hour?" "Mr. Alan." The android was surprised once again, but remembering Mark's teachings, he put away his analysis and went directly to the matter. Trying to be as honest as possible, he explained, "Sister Yue, I'm actually not sure about it. My big bro and the others have left the city and I was alone. You came to my mind and I felt like it has been a long time since we talked. So you thought you could just intrude into our residence, into my room in the middle of the night, huh?" Lin Zhu continued to respond to him coldly. After a brief pause, she further added a comment. "No wonder you could do it. After all, you are a puppet, not a human. If you are one, you would be able to have a sense of decency that you shouldn't intrude into a girl's room at such an hour." How did you?" Alan was shocked this time as Lin Zhu wasn't supposed to know his secret. But then, he remembered the fight with Necromancer and everything that happened with Elena and all. He realized that maybe this is why she was angry at him. Making an apologetic face, he said, "I don't mean to hide the truth from you, but my big bro has ordered me to keep my secret and I don't want to disappoint him." "I know. After all, you won't hesitate to kill me if your big bro orders you," replied the Lin clan heiress, blaming Mark in her mind. She then said, "Anyways, since you are already here, let me be clear. I no longer hold any interest in seeing you or holding any conversations with you. Leave this instant." "No, it is not true." Alan tried to clear things up for his friend now that she knows his secret. "The past me might kill you if I get an order, but now I'm upgraded several times. I can resist his order and you are a special person to me. There's no way I will hurt you and let you get hurt if I had to oppose my big bro." Hearing his honest words only made Lin Zhu more emotional. In her frustration, she growled at Alan, "Why can't you just understand my words properly? I don't want to talk to you. I will shout if you stay here anymore. No matter how strong you are, people still think that you are the younger brother of Lu Zhen. His fame will be the one that gets hit. Your store's fame will also get hit if they know you are abusing your strength to harass a woman. Okay, I will leave as you wish and I don't even show my face to you any longer. Don't need to threaten me." Alan raised his hands like he surrendered or something. However, he didn't turn and leave right away, as he could sense her emotions through his hypersensing abilities. Alan pressed her to convince him by arguing, "I just needed an honest answer. Why? Is it really matter if I'm a puppet? Do I become ineligible to talk to you or become your friend? After my last upgrade, I can now fly and travel distances faster than a supersonic jet. I have all the emotions that any human on this planet has. I'm now strong enough to go toe-to-toe against any Supreme Realm expert. I failed to protect you back then, but if I face the Necromancer King again, I can defeat him. I can now even help you accomplish your dream. You can become one with the sword. I can scan the surroundings to spot any hidden treasures or mines. I can make the finest sword that a dwarf could ever make. With my abilities, I can earn money more than all the noble clans combined. I'm better than 99.99999% of all the humans on this planet. And apart from once that happened as my big bro wanted you to stay away from his affairs, I had never mistreated you ever since we met. Do all of my qualities amount to nothing if I don't possess a human body and soul? I saved your life once. If you want to burn the bridges, then give me the truth. Alan didn't know it himself, but he looked quite frustrated as he was explaining to Lin Zhu. Did her rejection really vex him that much? Who knows? However, Lin Zhu was even more frustrated than him. In the end, she exploded as the tears welled up in her eyes. You want the truth, right? Then hear it. I fell in love with you, bastard, and you turned out to be a fucking puppet. It is unbearable for me to even look at you. Can you understand what I am going through? You have abilities, okay? They might suit a bodyguard or an adventurer or some other profession. Sure, you can earn loads of money, but can you really love someone? Can your heart beat for someone when you don't even have a heart? Can you marry someone and have kids? Can a girl imagine a future with you? Loving you is more disgusting than falling in love with an intelligent beast species. You are not even he or she. You are a thing. Now, you are a super fast analyzer, right? Then try to think how a girl like me should feel when she falls in love with someone for the first time in her life. She wanted to share her life with you, and then finds out that it is nothing but an illusion. Now do you get it? Get it? She almost roared at his face, looking at him in deep hatred while waking up everyone from the household. As people rushed to her room, Alan stood there like a statue. He was truly shocked to hear it. He doesn't have any personal experience, but he does see what it means by falling in love and what it means by imagining a future together. His master's love for Song Yue is the best example of that. As Lin Zhu collapsed on the floor and bawled as if her beloved died or something, Alan looked at her in a daze and mumbled without knowing. So, everything is going to be all right between us if I become a human. Lin Zhu raised her head and looked at him. She felt as if he was mocking her intelligence. Lin Zhu lunged at him and grabbed his collar while pushing him away slowly. Yes, go and become a human. Tell your dear bro to turn you into a human. I'll marry you even if you stay as a slave for Lu Zhen your whole life. Leave. Knock, knock, knock. Xiao Zhu, are you all right? Who are you shouting at? Open the door, I'm breaking it now. The doors were knocked at that time, and she heard his father's voice. My father is here, leave. Lin Zhu was alarmed and she suddenly talked in a whisper, hurriedly sending away Alan. Once, Alan jumped out of the window and flew into the sky in a daze. She wiped her tears and turned around, telling him to give her a second. As she opened the door, she saw his father along with a couple of servants were there standing outside. He stepped inside and looked around. What happened? Nothing, replied Lin Zhu in a hoarse voice. Lin Wang then looked at her face. You are crying, are you all right? As he touched her face, it felt hot. He then touched her forehead. You have a fever. He turned his head and shouted, bring the physician right now. As one of the servants left, Lin Wang took her to the bed and let her sit before he kneeled to her height and asked, what is it that about? Did you have a nightmare? Lin Zhu nodded thrice in silence, not intending to explain to her father. Lin Wang smiled as he patted her head. It's probably because you hold yourself up for several days. You are probably scarred because of the Necromancer King. To defeat it, you must go out and roam. As Lin Zhu nodded, Lin Wang sighed as he sat down. Today also has been hectic for me. First owner Lu's accusation against the Emperor, then the Emperor's retirement announcement. Sigh. Uncle Sheng's retirement. Meanwhile, Alan was flying in the air, trying to digest her questions. On the way to his home, he questioned even himself whether he could really do what a girl expects of him. Unfortunately for him, he is an android and everything is usually based on logic. Why he stays loyal to Mark? It is because he is his creator, although the system is considered his parent. But why does he act too desperate to save his friendship? Is it really because she is the only friend he had, or is it something else? Is there a possibility that he too likes Lin Zhu the same she liked him once? There are too many things and Alan couldn't come to a conclusion for some reason. Maybe he gets the answer if he is a human, thought the android. Chapter 436, Wedding Whispers, Plans for a Destination Celebration. The next day morning. Royal Palace, Lunaris City, Western Moon Kingdom. Welcome, Lord Lu, Lady Song, and the honored guests to Lunaris City. Your presence in my palace is a great honor. May our alliance bring prosperity to both our families. The King of Western Moon, Shen Niu, accompanied by his daughter, courtiers, and officials, greeted the guests with a formal deep bow, showing reverence and acknowledging their presence. Mark and Song Yue respond bows with equal respect. If this was any other normal visit, such formality was unnecessary. But since it holds special significance, the king treated Mark already as his son-in-law and gave him the respect he deserves. Following the formal greetings and rituals, King Shen Niu led the guests in a majestic procession through the palace, showcasing the grandeur and splendor of his kingdom. Courtiers and attendants follow along, adding to the sense of importance and celebration. It is not the first time Mark and Song Yue were visiting the palace, but as agreed upon beforehand, they played along. Only Zai Mei was new, and as a person who never stepped inside a royal palace, she was quite overwhelmed with their wealth, not knowing that Mark once held more wealth than the combined wealth of the Western Moon Kingdom citizens, but blew it up all on weapon transmutation skill. Once it was over, everyone was given their own guest room to take rest until lunchtime. Zai Mei slept peacefully all night while they were on the way, but Song Yue kept Mark company, talking with him so that he don't sleep on the way, and their vehicle crashed into some tree or rock. Now Mark has 9.6 points of strength, 9.5 temporary points of intelligence, and 9.1 points of resistance. His physical and mental stamina is over the roof. He doesn't get tired that easily, and neither could he feel much stress unless it deeply affects his soul, meaning emotional things related to his heart. However, Song Yue doesn't have such resistance. The moment she stepped into her room, she collapsed on the bed and fell into a deep sleep while sharing the room with the manticore and the golden kitten, which constantly act as her bodyguards. As for her real bodyguard, Aka, her dad, who disguised as the Black Knight warrior, he too couldn't properly sleep in a sitting position as Zai Mei. Hence, he also fell asleep as his back hit the comfy bed. And if one wonders where the Zheng was, the Beast Emperor continued his stay at MT Lan and temporarily stayed away from Mark. Zai Mei took out her griffin for a walk as they roamed outside of the palace, while Mark was in a private meeting with Shen Niu and Shen Ling in his room. Okay, son, let me go through what we have discussed through the communication scroll over the past few days. King Shen Niu started speaking first, directly going through the matter. Meanwhile, Mark was also slightly surprised at Shen Niu's change of address toward him, as it is the first time he called him like that. But he didn't mind it and listened to the king in silence. The coronation of Feng Chun is going to happen the day after tomorrow. Hence, I have to leave by tomorrow noon. Zio Ling will stay here. As you know, we don't have any specific ministries or departments to handle the marriage and other ceremonies. We hire private individuals who we call event planners to do them. They will take care of everything. Anyways, we hired Yang Tao. You can discuss the dates and venues and everything with him regarding your marriage with Lady Song, and then your engagement with my daughter. And then... Wait a second. Mark stopped him from going further as he wanted to say something regarding his marriage. And what is it? He asked. Shen Ling, who was just smiling in silence, also couldn't help but curiously look at Mark, wondering what he wants to say. Mark then said, "There's a slight change in the plans actually. After discussing it a bit, we realized it is better if my marriage with Song Yue happens somewhere else." Where? Shen Niu asked. Before Mark answered, Shen Ling said in a bit of an unsure tone, "Eastern Sun Kingdom." Mark asked curiously, "Did Song Yue tell you that?" Shen Ling shrugged her shoulders, "Just a hunch backed by a couple of theories." Mark stared at her for a couple of seconds and got back to her father, as he doesn't want her to explain her theories, at least not in front of her father. As Shen Niu wondered why, Mark then explained that Song Yue isn't comfortable with both events being attended in the same place, without much gap between them. Hence, he decided to have a destination wedding with Song Yue at Eastern Sun, but omitted the location, making them assume that it is Helios City. Shen Niu felt weird and didn't know what to reply to that, thinking of this destination wedding, far away from their hometown. He could understand if Mark wanted to marry at the Fujian Island since it is legally his own property, but at Eastern Sun Kingdom, that far away, why? The only reason he could think is because of the current situation at Western Yan and the Phoenix Empire. Mark then further said that 2-3 months after the completion of his first marriage, they can proceed through engagement or marriage with Shen Ling as the king wishes. Mark's assurance about his marriage to the princess brought a bit of relief and a boost of energy to King Shen Niu once again, and the latter continued with his explanation about their schedule. Anyway, once the Western Yan is formally declared as the independent kingdom, we will proceed with implementing this embassy system and make sure to propose this system to the other powers who will attend the ceremony. Coming to yourself, for the next few days, Xiao Ling will be responsible for taking care of you and your companions. She will let you know everything you have to know about our kingdom and our royal affairs. After that, I expect you to train the soldiers for a week regarding your firearms and vehicles as you have promised. Then you can go and tour around these airstrips and runways that you wanted. Whatever place you want, we will make the arrangements. Regarding the world auction, we still have to wait for the announcement, but as we know, the sellers usually have 10 weeks of time to register their items from the date of announcement. So, I guess we have plenty of time. You can use this time as an opportunity to marry Lady Song within the next couple of months, and then we can proceed with my daughter's engagement after the auction. It's just a suggestion, not pressuring you by any means. Mark thought about it, taking the matter rather seriously. To be honest, he doesn't want to think about the marriage until he moved on from his revenge. He wanted it to be something like opening a new chapter of life. For that to happen, he needed a civil war to start in the Phoenix Empire. To get the desired results, he estimated about 5-6 months of time. But this King Shen Niu was trying to rush his marriage with Song Yue so that he can get his daughter to wed him. What should he do? Chapter 437, Unleashing Ambitions and Mechanical Disappointments. After much thinking, Mark decided to rush his plans too. First of all, he cannot keep Shang Jiao hostage for too long. He never knows if Lan Jingyi suddenly loses her patience. Secondly, there is a high chance that things might get cooled down if he gives too much time for Phoenix Empire to recover. Before he left, he did hear of the announcement made by the Emperor. Mark assumed it might be because of his allegations, but he didn't have any pity for his biological father anyway. In fact, he thought this is a perfect opportunity. For the civil war to happen, Shang Zexi cannot win the race at all costs, but he cannot lose by extreme either. The Crown Prince should feel like he has a strong chance. As long as he loses by a tiny margin and Shang Wei ends up being a winner, Mark felt like he could support the Crown Prince in the shadows through funding and breaking up the military. Once Shang Zexi emerged as a strong opposition, he will reveal the truth about the new Emperor Shang Wei. Neither the primitive-thinking ministers nor a proud person like Shang Zexi would ever accept an illegitimate child to sit on the throne. As the hell breaks loose at the Southern Empire, Mark will rake in money while supplying weapons to both parties. He will have his revenge and money at the same time, like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. However, there's also another problem, which is the fact that Shang Zexi and Shang Wei are still brothers who grow up together. They might have rivalry but didn't have hatred against each other. If they have strong hatred then, Shang Zexi would have a strong motive to overthrow his brother, even if he has to destroy his own empire in the process. But what can spark such hatred, Mark wondered. He had a few thoughts like staging an assassination attempt on the Crown Prince, abducting the Crown Prince's wife, creating rumors like the Crown Prince turned out to be impotent, etc. He wants to have a strong emotion of hatred from the crown prince. After thinking for a bit, a familiar face came to Mark's mind. A smile appeared on Mark's face as he thought, Nai Raogang. Nai Raogang is someone who is a strong player in politics, and he was cherished by the crown prince too much. To save him, the proud Shang Zexi bowed his head before Mark in front of everyone without being ordered. Mark decided to target the man who he didn't like either. Seeing Mark deep in his thoughts and then have an evil smile made the father and daughter wonder what was going on in his mind. But they remained patient until he was done with his thinking. In the end, he apologized, and then further said to King Shen Niu that he will keep his suggestion in mind when taking the decision. After sending away both of them with an excuse that he need to take a light nap, Mark closed the door and lay on the bed as if he was sleeping. But in reality, he isn't. He spoke to the system, open Mark's factory. Mark's factory. Level 4. Available machines, drill press 10, welder 10, milling machine 10, lathe 10, weighing and measuring equipment, blender, grain forming machine, curring machine, and computer numerical control machine, CNC. Available time, 240 minutes. Cooldown 6 hours. Computer-aided design software, CAD. Testing ground. Analysis LV2. Go. It was leveled up automatically when the system was upgraded, and there was new equipment added for his next level of manufacturing. He has ideas to make new guns, but his eyes were set on something else. Taking out a few destroyed robots and robot dogs on the floor, Mark flexed his fingers and looked at them in the way a kid looks at the toy section at the department store. Let's see how these robots are different from normal ones. How could they use ether energy as an alternate power source of electricity? We'll have our answer soon enough. Mark's face brightly glowed as he dismantled them to pick up some important components. 3.5 hours later, Mark's spirit was seen engrossed in making a large-sized multi-headed robot dog, using the spare parts from the destroyed ones and the machines available around him. He had a couple of built-in robots from the factory as assistants for more precision and faster. Eventually, a 7-foot big large-sized robot dog with 3 heads was built successfully. It was quite an achievement considering it has only been a little more than 200 minutes have passed. Looking at it, Mark imagined the figure he took inspiration from and mumbled in a bit of disappointment. That Cerberus looked menacing, but this looked quite docile even with its size. And their eyes are also slightly small, but then again, I didn't have the necessary equipment to make my own camera lens. I had to use what I have at the moment. Even to give it a zooming function, I had to buy 20x scopes and modify them so that they cover their eyes with a voice-activated function from me. Anyway, let's test it and see the final result. If this prototype works, then I can make better ones in the future. I can even add various weapons to it. Taking it to the open area of the testing area within the factory realm, Mark then jumped onto his back and pressed his hand at the joint part where its 3 heads attached to its body. There was a Type B socket to plug in the adapter, but Mark intends to test with the ether energy. He placed his hand over it and concentrated a lot, trying to pour as little ether energy as he could. After all, a rank 5 robot consumes about 1,000 ether particles worth of energy to run for a whole day. He doesn't know its rank yet, but he was confident that it won't exceed rank 5 as he didn't use stronger materials anyway, and much of its body was also salvaged from rank 3 robot dogs and rank 3 battle robots. Hence, he was wary about pouring the ether energy, not wanting to short-circuit it. Mark just wants to know whether it is working or not. And just as his ether energy entered the prototype and reached its batteries, they instantly passed the current all over its circuits. The 6 eyes of the prototype glowed up in blue as if it came to life. Woof, woof, woof. The 3-headed robot dog let out powerful barks simultaneously, lighting up the eyes of Mark in excitement. But his happiness was only short-lived. Before he even got down onto the ground and took a good look at his invention, he heard something like an explosion inside the dog and heavy smoke coming out of their mouths, and their heads were hung down. System activate analysis LV2. He analyzed the dog in a hurry, and the system only gave him a piece of bad news in response. Ding, the circuits were fried completely due to incorrect voltage input, component failure, and a power surge. As if that wasn't enough, the sassy system went on adding a comment of its own. Ding, system score, 2.5. Don't put too much focus on the exterior appearance, host. Damn it, Mark's face darkened. Chapter 438, Unexpected Success and Dashed Expectations. Returning to the real world in disappointment, Mark took a nap to clear his head from having any sort of negative thoughts. After taking a nap for an hour, he freshened himself with a shower, and then dressed up for the grand banquet arranged by King Shen Niu in his welcome. The courtiers, officials, top military personnel, and wealthy individuals all attended the banquet. Song Yue and Shen Ling joined the other ladies. Mark felt the atmosphere is quite similar to the one he had at the Eastern Sun. There he was a visiting guest, so he was fine. But here he is going to be the son-in-law, and he didn't like these things to stay that way. Upon remembering Shen Ling's ambition behind this marriage with him, Mark felt like he should play more of an active role rather than standing behind her, as the princess was going to overthrow the patriarchal system in the kingdom. But then again, he doesn't want the matriarchy system as Shen Ling wanted either. After all, it won't improve the lives of women except for bringing additional chaos. Shen Ling knows that, and she has her own plans to deal with the consequences too. But Mark also has his own plans for her, and he should make sure that she stays in the dark as long as possible. The princess is smart enough to figure out his whole secret just by connecting the info she has with his past actions. As her cooperation is too integral to his kingdom-building strategy, and he doesn't want to use threats now that he chose the path of marriage, Mark felt like he should be very careful whenever reveals his plans to her. Back to the present, after the banquet was finished, Mark made a visit to the branch store to see how Chang Bo and Meng Tao were doing. As neared the store, he saw a huge line in front of the entrance even though the sun in on everyone's heads. Mark was astounded to see such popularity of his store's branch, which was officially opened only 2 days ago. Unless the royal family publicized extensively, it shouldn't be possible. He couldn't help but think of his main branch, which was out of business for more than a week now. Curious about this incident, he tapped the shoulder of the person standing at the last of the line. "Excuse me." "Yes," the guy turned around to look at Mark. He didn't recognize him and just asked, "May I help you with something?" Mark pointed at the tower and asked, "Why there are so many people?" "Oh, you must not have heard about it." The young man's face just glowed in excitement as he explained, "The food served over there is top-notch. Even normal egg-fried rice tastes like a delicacy. The best dish, Meng's roasted spirit duck, was just heavenly. You know the best part, it only costs 3 gold coins. "Ooh, that is a weapon store, right?" Mark couldn't believe his ears properly. Why this guy is talking about food? The stranger then nodded. "It is, but it's just the bottom and the first floor. On the second floor there is a clothing store. On the third floor there is an alchemy store. On the fourth floor there's a Giantsy challenge, where there's a reward for the number of feather ball kicks. And there's also a quiz challenge to win the rewards. The fifth floor was occupied by the restaurant and the sixth floor was restricted. It's probably where the manager lives. Who knows?" After a brief pause, the stranger finished with a comment. "I should say these guys know how to do business. But then again, it is the king's son-in-law. You can't expect normal things from such a legendary figure." If Mark would hear this comment at another time, he would feel happy to hear such praise from a stranger as a third party, but his mood isn't good at the moment. He felt like his trust has been betrayed by Chang Bo and Meng Tao. He left the line and went to the backside of the tower, where there is another entrance. However, that can only be opened from the inside. He took out the communication scroll and contacted Chang Bo. The latter was busy explaining the features of an AK-47 and AK-203 to a customer, and he dropped the conversation and rushed to the back exit, located in a small storage room behind the counter, as soon as he received the message. The large stone door, which is a part of the tower, was slid to the side within no time. Changbo greeted Mark in great excitement. "Lord Lu, when did you arrive here? I thought you were supposed to come to Lunara City 5 days later. Please come inside." Mark stared at him with a look of frown on his face. He didn't respond for a while. The whelp-pair was startled for a moment when he saw his displeased boss. He asked, "Lord Lu, is something matter?" Mark raised his head to look at the tower and replied, "I believe I told you to run a branch of Genesis Weapon Store, not turn it into a recreational hub." Recreational hub? Changbo never heard of such a word. Hence, he was confused a little bit, but at least he got the gist of what Mark was trying to say. He politely said, "We'll explain to you everything, but please come inside." But Mark was stern and gave an order as he stepped inside. "I'll give you 60 seconds. Throw everyone out and drag Ming Tao's ass here. Even the ones who are eating." Changbo became slightly worried by Mark's order. Since he was promoted as a manager, he began to think like one. Mark gave him a cold gaze and answered, "Everyone, including any other staff member you have hired so far. Give whatever excuse you can give." "Yes." Changbo flinched at Mark's gaze and he quickly scurried away. Mark didn't know what the whelp-pair has told everyone, but within just 90 seconds of time, the entrance door was closed and only 3 people remained in the store. Meng Tao and Changbo were standing beside each other in silence, as Mark stared at them with clear displeasure written on his face. "Changbo, explain yourself." Mark opened his mouth as he sat down on the chair. The teenager and the young adult gulped their saliva. Chapter 439, A Menu of Transformation. Sometime later, Meng Tao and Changbo were kneeling on the floor with Mark sitting on the chair and staring at them. His anger couldn't be subsided no matter how much he tried to be calmer. Changbo and Meng Tao defend themselves earlier by how it incredibly made the store popular, and how they raked in earnings of about 754 gold coins in just a matter of 2 days. If one considers the rewards they gave out in the form of guns and grenades and the cost of ingredients, the profits were still over 600 gold coins. Mark scolded them for misusing their freedom to do whatever they want, and he shouldn't have put a young adult to manage his store. He explained that he didn't lack money, and that what he intends to do is to promote firearms. Changbo once again defended his actions by arguing that his strategy has made them sell 285 gold coins worth of firearms and ammunition. However, Mark wasn't convinced at all. He made the counter-argument that they didn't think of the store's reputation he built up so far. Because of their actions, now people would have a wrong impression of the store. As Mark commented that he shouldn't have put immature boys like them as they have too many stupid ideas in their heads, Changbo felt wrong and he wanted to argue, but Meng Tao stopped him and forced him to kneel alongside him to apologize to their boss. After much thinking, Mark then called out the young adult, Meng Tao. "Yes." Mark gave an order, "Go and bring me all the dishes that you sell here. Don't make too much. I only wanted to taste them." Meng Tao's face glowed up as he felt like their boss is giving him an opportunity to prove themselves. "I'll return in a jiffy, boss." Meng Tao rushed away to the stairs. Changbo looked hopeful at Mark. Mark didn't spare a glance at Changbo and stayed silent. The whelp-pair continued to kneel. After a few minutes, Meng Tao returned and informed him that the food was ready. Mark realized that this former heir of the Meng clan probably made it in huge amounts in advance and stored it in a storage ring. While storage rings will keep them fresh, the heat will be dissipated when the food entered that dimensional space. They have to be reheated after taking them out. This is probably what Meng Tao did, or so Mark thought as he went to the restaurant on the 5th floor. Before he left, he didn't forget to inform Changbo to continue to kneel until he returns. Changbo obliged his order. Meng Tao could only pat his shoulder in sympathy and tried to cheer him up by saying that his food will improve their boss' mood. As Meng Tao followed his boss, Changbo looked down at the floor. He almost felt like crying as he was mumbling, "I shouldn't have left his side when he gave me the offer. Life was so simple in Imperial City. Here, the ambition to earn more money has gone to my head and I became too greedy. Meanwhile, Mark sat at the table, and Meng Tao served the dishes on small plates. The moment Mark's eyes fell on the first dish, the stir-fried vegetables, his gaze changed a bit. I see, so these aren't made by him. Okay, let's see how good it will be. He picked up the chopsticks. MMMM. It was just stir-fried vegetables, but Mark remembered the times he enjoyed the food made by Elena. Seeing Mark's expression, Meng Tao's nervousness disappeared, and he served the next set of dishes more confidently. Boss, this is steamed fish. The primary ingredient is the dragon fish, 1 circle realm. Boss, the eggs used in this fried rice belong to Spirit Ostrich Queen, 3 circle. Boss, this is sweet and sour ribs, a delicacy from my hometown. The pork meat we used is of the Spirit Thunder Pig, 4 circle. And this is the highlight of our restaurant. It is roasted spirit duck, but my version. Well, I should say it is my mom's recipe. Please try it. Mark tasted 12 dishes, and there was no dish that he could say was average. He liked everything, and all of that earlier anger was gone. If he doesn't put such talent to use, he would be an idiot. But he didn't praise Meng Tao. Instead, he said, "Bring out Killin, I want to talk to it." Meng Tao was slightly taken aback, but he did it as he was asked. Soon, his eyes turned scarlet and his voice changed. Lu Zhen. Mark looked at the youngster and smiled. I know that it was you who did all these dishes and not your host, but anyways, good job. Thanks, but I only did the cooking, following Meng Tao's directions. Hence, he is the one worthy of your praise, replied the Killin's spirit that was possessing Meng Tao. Mark shrugged his shoulders. He is a soldier, not a cook. I don't want to encourage him. After a while, Mark returned downstairs, and Chang Bo prepared himself to apologize to him, promising him that he won't do such things again. However, to his surprise, before he even gets to open his mouth, Mark ended his punishment and further gave him permission to continue with his theme. Chang Bo couldn't help but gratefully look at Meng Tao. And then Mark went on to modify their theme, a bit slightly. Since the space has been constricted, we will be selling only selective models. On the first floor, it will be non-ether firearms like AK-47 and AK-203, rocket launchers, explosives like C4 and grenades. The low-level ones like the pistol, revolvers, and semi-automatic handguns will be taken out and placed in the reward section on the 4th floor. And the 2nd floor's display shelves will be filled with ether firearms. I'll send you the required ones. I also want you to visit the furniture store and custom order some designs like the battle tanks, robots, and others I give you later on. As for the restaurant, raise the food prices and the quality of the ingredients. The food will be free for those who purchase firearms, although not unlimited. For example, if one buys a grenade worth 100 gold coins, they can eat dishes worth a maximum of 100 gold coins. However, takeaway is not available in that condition. And there are too few games above. We have enough space to include 2 more events. You are using the 6th floor to live together and also the kitchen. Vacate it. I'll provide your accommodation elsewhere. We will also rent a kitchen outside. Instead, we use the 6th floor as a bar, a pub. We fill with drinks of variety. But to access all of these additional floors, the customers would have to pay a subscription fee. It is like paying a fee per month to become an exclusive member. We'll do something about this during the next week. Until the changes get implemented, the store will remain closed. Meng Tao and Chang Bo looked at each other, trying their best to digest the changes instructed by their boss. Understood, my lord. Chapter 440, Imperial Intrigues and Throne Trials. A week passed away in a blink of an eye. During this time, Mark was busy implementing his plans for the store, and it was going rather well. He couldn't help but look forward to the day when it reopens. In the meantime, he won a new type of battle tank from the lottery wheel to sell. The battle tank was based on Merkavaroman 4 from Mark's past world. With each unit costing just about 7,500 gold coins, The main battle tank is something that can destroy any spirit warrior below the high 6th circle realm, and is durable enough to block the attacks below the 6th circle realm. Perhaps, the only disadvantage it has, like any other battle tank, is the speed. But then again, the smoothbore gun, 120 of the battle tank could attack enemies from as far away as 3-4 km, so it shouldn't be an issue. Another disadvantage is that these are too heavy, and it will be challenging to navigate in certain terrains, such as soft or uneven ground, forests, or urban areas. This can make them more vulnerable to ambushes and restrict their operational flexibility. There is also high fuel consumption due to their large engines, but since Mark planned on using his oil attribute to sell even the gasoline and all other types of fuel, it is cool. Meanwhile, peace returned to Western Yan. Feng Wu's nephew and the only remaining heir of the past king, Feng Chun, ascended to the throne at the tender age of 8. Obviously, that means Feng Wu will be ruling in Feng Chun's place until the latter grew up into an adult. The coronation ceremony went quite well with the attendance of the Crown Prince Shang Wei from the Phoenix Empire, King Shen Niu from Western Moon, King Aoyang Zhen from Eastern Sun, respective envoys from the Dwarven Kingdom, Qilin Empire, and Kun Empire. The Lian Empire even sent one of the princes with a general to the ceremony. Everyone formally acknowledged the ruling of the Feng dynasty once again at Western Yan. There, Shen Niu proposed the embassy system to fellow representatives. Only Aoyang Zhen and Feng Chun gave their assent. The remaining could only take the proposal to their rulers. As agreed on beforehand, the hostages were released by the Western Yan. The Jai family, General Hu and his soldiers, everyone except for the experts of the Church of Nuwa were released. Shang Wei also demanded Aoyang Zhen to his release sister from captivity. However, Lan Jiang replied that he cannot control the Zheng, he merely was contracted to it. According to the newspapers, the Zheng was contracted to Aoyang Zhen's prime minister, Lan Jiang, and he abducted the daughter of the emperor to force him into making peace with Feng Wu. It is what Mark wanted to happen so that his name don't be attached to Western Yan as a key ally, and Lan Jiang also cooperated with him, just like several other things, as he wanted to go back home with the heir of the ancient Lan sect. Shang Wei could only return empty-handed, disappointing his parents. Lan Jingyi swore in her heart that she brings back her child. And within 2 days of the coronation ceremony, there was a huge battle in the Kunyu mountain range. Forests were destroyed, hills were razed to the ground, and several indigenous tribes living in the mountains without any contact with the outside world were wiped out. But Lan Jingyi couldn't achieve victory against the 5-tailed scarlet leopard. She lost her challenge and can no longer demand her daughter from the Zheng. Hence, she can only try an emotional angle. She would visit him daily and request for her daughter's release. As time passed, Zheng's attachment to her and her late father affected him and made him softer. Meanwhile, at the imperial city, the trial for the imperial throne has started. About 5 contestants ended up in the race, but unfortunately, Shang Wei didn't appear to be the favorite as the clan lords had expected. From the imperial family, there are only 2, Shang Wei, 3rd prince, and Shang Zexi, crown prince. The 2nd prince isn't interested in the throne, and he would have to leave very soon, while the 4th prince prefers to stay in the shadows. As for the remaining 3, one is the emperor's younger brother from a different mother. Shang Xing, aged 51, is the son of the queen consort of Shang Fu's predecessor. He and Shang Fu fought for the throne, but the latter won with more support, as he was not only the crown prince, but also awakened the bloodline of the Phoenix. Since then, the Grand Prince stayed out of politics. Now that an opportunity came before him, Shang Xing jumped into the race. The 4th contender, named Shang Hao, is a distant relative of the imperial family, but still bears the surname as he was a direct descendant of Shang Fu's predecessor's brother. Shang Hao is currently working as the Vice Secretary of the Department of State Affairs. He isn't exactly what you call a key figure, but still holds connections with the major noble clans. And the final contender is surprisingly Shang Xiang's eldest son, Shang Jun aged only 27 years old. This young man was once touted as a genius who has the highest chance to become a supreme realm expert. Born from Shang Xiang's concubine who hailed from Dragon Empire, Shang Jun was not only blessed with the Phoenix bloodline, but he also became a spirit warrior at the age of 5. When he was 8, he was already in the two-circle realm. However, in a suspicious incident in the past, when he and his mother were ambushed in the wild zone, his mother was killed along with the guards while one of them grabbed and escaped. A timely save from a wandering spirit warrior saved his life, but by that time, the kid has lost his cultivation. Since then, he was looked down on by family members and relatives. He faced a lot of bullying in the young, but his father turned a blind eye. After 7 years, the 15-year-old coincidentally met the same wandering spirit warriors who took him as a disciple, and together they embarked on a journey. No one knows where they have been or what Shang Jun was doing, but as he returned home a week ago after being away for 14 years, he somehow gained the cultivation and entered the 7-circle realm while still having the abilities given by the Phoenix bloodline. Chapter 441, Triumph in the Dungeon, Shang Jun's Victorious Battle. Back to the competition for the throne. It's been 4 days since it began, and the first round in this trial was about to end. The first round was named the Trial of Monsters. For this round, Dungeon of Venklaw was selected. The 6-star dungeon in the Jin province was explored by Bai Zun, and the Imperial Army made sure that no 30-party adventurers stay in the place. The mission was simple. The 5 contenders have to enter the dungeon and make a contract with a beast of at least 4-circle realm within a time limit and return. Those who are unsuccessful will be eliminated from the competition right away. If there are multiple contenders who are successful, the one with the highest scores, depending on the type of contracted beast, will be receiving an advantage during the next trial. The contenders will enter the place alone without any help. Shang Jun has the advantage due to his high cultivation, while Shang Hao has the lowest chance. Shang Xiang has contracted with a peak 5-circle realm beast of fierce grade named Sylphir, a fire-breathing wolf. Shang Zexi was also successful in contracting with a low 6-circle realm beast, but of normal grade, named the Armored Elephant. Shang Wei surprised everyone by going for a 4-circle realm beast. Some experts lauded him for his cleverness as he had come out by sitting on a horse. It was a lightning element horse. Despite its low level, it can still run up at the speed of 250 km/h. However, there are some that criticized him too, as he can fly with phoenix wings when he enters the 6-circle realm. But his supporters defended him by saying that an emperor looks cooler riding a horse compared to flying with fiery wings. Meanwhile, Shang Ho and Shang Jun were still inside. After several failures, the 33-year-old was currently trying to tame a 4-horned large bison, peak 4-circle of fierce grade. He was hanging onto its back as it was aggressively jumping around like a bull, trying to shake him off its back. Its energy levels slowly dipped down as time passed, and Shang Ho's confidence grew up. Unfortunately for him, fate put Shang Jun in his path. Before he accomplished the task, the bison suddenly disappeared alongside every other creature in the region. Thud! Shang Ho fell on his butt and was taken aback by the situation. What the hell has happened? He wondered before his eyes fell on a giant crab-like creature with a dark black shell. The beast was coming toward him, and Shang Ho's face turned pale in fear. He quickly started running away in a random direction, but the creature didn't chase after him. It went toward the portal, which could only be accessed by humans. It entered the portal and exited the dungeon, where a huge campsite was built around with people waiting for the contenders. Since it was the last day, Emperor Shang and the other princes have been paying attention to the dungeon in anticipation that Shang Jun gets disqualified. As any father, he wants his children to become more successful than the others. If someone has to become the next emperor, it should be his child, not his brother's son. Once Shang Jun becomes the emperor, the descendants of Shang Fu will become a branch family, while the former's family will become the imperial family. He knew his eldest son very well. Shang Zexi would definitely rebel if Shang Jun sits on the throne. More than so, he was inwardly rooting for Shang Wei to succeed him, and Shang Jun's sudden entry also threatened that dream. However, as they saw the giant crab, everyone's expression became serious. "He managed to tame the Beast King," mumbled Shang Fu with a darkened expression. The fact that Shang Jun even managed to beat down the ego of a Beast King only showcases his ability. But it isn't over yet. Upon reaching the Emperor's campsite, Shang Fu jumped down to the ground and walked toward him. He questioned the Supreme Commander whether he passes the first trial. As Bai Zun nodded, he went on to ask whether the following trials have anything to do with the captured beast. As the details of the following rounds were already announced, Bai Zun wondered whether there is something wrong with his long-haired prince and replied, "You can use contracted beasts in the battle." The 6-foot handsome hunk then smiled before leaving a comment, "Then, I'll put it to a better use." Neither Bai Zun nor the people around him understood what he meant, but taking them by surprise once again, Shang Jun walked to the Beast King and closed his eyes. Release. The phoenix flames burned the invisible chains between him and the Beast King, freeing it from the contract. The Crab King, Venclaw, frowned inwardly as it asked him in a deep voice similar to that of a human, "What are you doing? Why did you sever the bond?" Shang Jun smiled as he summoned a semi-divine grade sword and poured his ether energy into it. "Sorry, but your usefulness has ended. Perhaps a dead one is more useful." "How dare you?" the Crab King roared in anger, alerting the soldiers around and even the Supreme Commander. As the Crab King raised its sharp and raised pincers to attack its former contractor, the latter rushed forward with phoenix wings erupting from his back. However, the flames weren't scarlet like the second prince. The flame was blue. Meanwhile, the broadsword in his hand grew 100 times bigger with blue flames enveloping the blade. Jumping high, Shang Jun sliced at the crab's shell. The hard shell couldn't block his attack. It was perfectly cleaved into two. Shang Jun then proceeded to cut down its head where its core is located. He placed the large head in his storage ring and left behind everything. A few moments ago, it is a Beast King, the overlord of the dungeon. But now, it is a huge corpse that couldn't even be cooked and eaten as it is risky to eat a dead crab. Okay, that was done. Maintaining a smile on his face, Shang Jun kept away the sword and clapped twice for his effort before bowing toward the core. "Thank you for your contribution. Your sacrifice will be remembered." Everyone. Chapter 442, Trial of the Scrolls, Unveiling the Path to Wisdom. With Shang Ho out of the race, only 4 remained. The next day morning, at the imperial court filled with officials, the 4 contenders stood beside each other as they stared at the emperor sitting on the throne. Shang Fu went on to say, "The second phase is the trial of the wisdom. As you have been informed earlier, this trial focuses on your wisdom." He shifted his attention to the officials and continued, "In the upcoming trial, the contenders are presented with a series of intricate puzzles, riddles, and tests of intellect. They must unravel ancient scrolls, decipher cryptic symbols, and solve complex logic puzzles. The trial focuses on their strategic thinking, problem-solving skills, and ability to make wise and sound decisions under pressure." He shifted his attention back to the contenders and spoke, "The trial of wisdom has 7 stages. Each day, 1 stage. The time limit will be sunset. For the first stage of this trial, the 4 of you will be locked in different chambers filled with ancient scrolls. The fragmented information about the emperor's lineage and historical events is scattered around the chamber. You just have to collect and piece together the scrolls, arranging them in the correct chronological order. You receive a score based on how much work you have completed. For this task, the maximum score also varies according to the difficulty. Your scores will add up as you go through a different stage of the trial on each day. By the end of the 7th day, the one with the least score will be eliminated. As for which room each one will go to, it depends on your choice. As the highest scored contender during the previous trial, Prince Shang Jun would get the first choice. Here are the 5 scrolls. The emperor gave the scrolls to Bai Zun, who then passed them to Shang Jun. He opened one. It basically contained the difficulty level in the form of chess pieces, like a soldier max. 50 is the weakest and easiest difficulty, followed by the Royal Knight max, 100 Captain max, 100 General max, 150 and Supreme Commander max, 300. This time, Shang Jun didn't go for the best one, assuming that it will be too difficult. He took the general level difficulty. After him, Shang Zexi's turn came. However, he too was reluctant to choose the hardest one. He chose captain-level difficulty. Shang Xiang followed the same way and chose the Royal Knight difficulty, leaving the third prince with the option of 2 extremes. As Shang Wei was staring at each of them, the crown prince laughed inwardly. He was delighted to see his prime opponent will end up at a disadvantage whatever choice he makes. In the end, the third prince gave 1 scroll back to the Supreme Commander and spoke, "I will take this." Bai Zun opened it curiously and saw that he had the soldier-level difficulty one, meaning Shang Wei will be facing the most difficult one. He personally created this trial and knew how difficult it is going to be. Still, as a person who swore an oath to neutrality, he cannot take any sides, and he acted as if he doesn't care. Contenders, I believe you must have already seen the location written in your scrolls, so you have to find your way to it. There is no prohibition for assistance. You can take the help to find your way to your respective destinations, said the emperor before adding, "Remember, all of you have time only until the sunset. Good luck." Lunaris City, Western Moon Kingdom. In the empty plot of land behind the barracks, soldiers were seen crouching on one of their knees while having ether pistols in their hands. Targets were placed about 20 meters away in the form of scarecrows. Amidst them, there were also a couple of battle robots with rank 1 and rank 3 respectively. Meanwhile, Mark was shouting like an officer, "Now, look at them. Don't you feel humiliated when these things could strike the target more precisely than you do? All of you can single-handedly beat them in close combat, but you lose when in ranged battle. Why? Is it because you weren't accustomed to the firearms? No. That is an excuse for the civilian-level soldiers, not royal knights like you guys. If you couldn't handle small firearms like these, how could you handle big ones? You must have heard about the Phoenix Empire's recent war with our southern neighbor. Before the supreme beings were involved, the Kunyu royal force guarded their land by not letting any foreigners into their land and even kept peace in the Gong City. How? They were weak, but they had the firearms. They mastered assault rifles and sniper rifles, which can strike targets far away that an arrow can reach. I'm not telling you to depend on firearms. Just treat them as a tool to have an advantage over your enemies. And how could you master the art of gun firing when you people are not trying hard enough? Put more concentration on the targets. Don't let your gaze move here and there. Don't let your hands shiver. You'll do fine. Now again, shoot. Go for the head." As Mark was done with his store and learned about everything that there is about the kingdom through Shen Ling, during the past week, he left the store in Chang Bo's hands and went to train the firearms unit comprised of 500 soldiers, in which 10 royal knights are included. He planned to make one of those royal knights a general for this division. In the meantime, he also started a work called Project C. C stands for Cerberus. He planned to create a mechanical Cerberus capable of moving on its own like a battle robot while equipped with several types of guns. For now, he was using the spare parts of the destroyed robots, especially their batteries. So far, he made 4 such prototypes, but none of them worked so far. After a few trials and errors, he realized that the internal batteries appeared to be an issue. The multiple batteries from different robots are the ones that make the problem. Hence, Mark decided to take them out, and for the past 3 days, he was busy making an external battery as a power source. However, making it from scratch is something of an arduous task. Hence, he dismantled the remaining batteries and merged them all to create a bigger one. Only one more shot is remaining, and he doesn't want to get any failure. The circuits and every other part went through multiple checks, and tonight will be the day he will assemble the prototype and go through testing. Mark was excited about it, and that excitement showed in today's training. He was slightly more aggressive as he trained the royal knights in handling the guns. The evening arrived. Back at Imperial City's Imperial Palace, everyone was waiting for the contenders to come out of the chambers. Meanwhile, in Lunaris City's royal palace, Mark was looking forward to bedtime. He was having tea with the king and talking about the power dynamics. All of a sudden, a holographic screen suddenly pops up in front of his eyes with a message from the system. Ding, you received a message from Alan Spencer. Message, big bro, Queen Consort Lan Jingyi is here, and she intends to talk to you. It appeared she figured out the truth about Shang Jiao's abduction. Mark's facial expression changed when he saw that. He rose to his feet. What happened? Asked the King of Western Moon. Mark replied, I need to leave to handle an urgent situation. Please excuse me. Chapter 443. A Fractured Family, Lies, Hatred, and Despair. Using his teleportation skill, he traveled to Imperial City in an instant, but it took time to return to the store. Fortunately, the surveillance in the outer sector has reduced by a lot, or one should say it returned to usual, ever since Mark left the city for good. So Mark had it easy as he arrived at his destination, where Lan Jingyi was waiting upstairs living room. Upon seeing him, she commented, You really could teleport, huh? One of my many talents, I suppose. Mark shrugged his shoulders and calmly sat down. Looking at her, he then asked, So, what is it that Queen Consort Lan had to ask me that she visited me during the dusk and even threatened my sibling using false accusations? He planned to deny it until he cannot do so. Lan Jingyi took a deep breath and replied in a serious tone, Lan Ju has told me that you were the one who abducted Shang Jiao, and you were also the mastermind behind this war. The Gold Dragon, the Demon King from Hell, and the Zheng, all of them just followed your orders and played in the grand scheme of yours. Mark didn't expect the Zheng would reveal his plan. He decided to confront him, but for the moment, he needed to handle this woman. Since the ultimate defense of the store has been upgraded, and even demigods are useless, Mark was confident that this biological mother of his was completely at his mercy. Adding to the fact that she probably came to see him in secret, Mark planned to keep her as a prisoner in case the situation gets out of his hand. Looking straight into her eyes without any fear, he leaned back and said, If you think I did all those, then you can inform your husband, the Emperor. Since I'm no longer a citizen of your empire, I won't attend the summoning of the Imperial Court, but he can use his connections with Western Moon's king to confront me. Why come here? You know why, replied Lan Jingyi. What do I know? Mark responded with the question. Lan Jingyi looked at the floor and took a deep breath before answering. The fact that you are not the child of Lu Yimu and Yizexi. Emperor Shang is your true father and I'm your. You are my biological mother, finished Mark in place of her. He actually didn't expect her to come out with the truth, but her timing didn't make it any better. Why did it have to be when Shang Jiao was abducted? Lan Jingyi nodded as she continued to look down at her feet, not intending to lock her eyes on her son. Yeah. Mark stared at her for a while. After 10 seconds of silence, he asked slowly, Since when have you known the truth that I know it? It's been a while, replied her mother. After a brief pause, she added, Your sister told me about it after she accidentally heard you talking with Lan Jing. Mark then asked, Tell me honestly, if your daughter hasn't been abducted, this day would never come right. Lan Jingyi raised her head in shock, not expecting him to take it this way. She tried to defend herself. No, it's not what you think. I wanted to tell you a lot of times, but you have hatred for us in your heart. Trust me, I thought of revealing it to you after we become a little closer, but the opportunity never came due to various events. Mark's words hung heavily in the air as he let out a deep sigh, his voice filled with a somber tone. Well, it may seem that time has slipped away, Queen Consort Lan, he uttered with a hint of resignation. Your husband is a notorious skirt chaser who precedes him, and I haven't been honest in the Imperial Court either. As many as 46 illegitimate children were killed, and that sin was on his head. As for you, you are also a selfish individual who is willing to forsake the sect that nurtured you and even your own child for the pursuit of personal happiness. Regrettably, it appears that no matter what path you choose to redeem yourselves, forgiveness may remain elusive. The weight of his words reflected the depth of disappointment and skepticism in his heart. I don't believe I deserve forgiveness either, my son, Lan Jingyi replied with a heavy heart. We cannot change the past, but we must find a way to create a better future. There must be something we can do to make amends and rebuild what has been broken. Her voice carried a mix of regret and determination as she looked into her son's eyes, hoping to convey her sincerity and willingness to make things right. However, the darkness in Mark's heart made him blind to see her sincerity. He said, "In the future that I want to build, there is no place for you or your husband in my story, Queen Consort Lan. Nevertheless, you still gave birth to this body. Hence, I would thank you. As for my so-called sister, don't worry. She is safe and sound. Unlike you, I don't do injustice to my family. I may have used her to keep you away from the war, but in return, I'm compensating for it by training her. Rather than imprisonment, you can consider it like she was cultivating in seclusion. She will be returned very soon, but not before I see your husband's doom." "Can you at least let me meet her once?" asked Lan Jingyi, dropping her plans of freeing her. "I promise you that I will just talk to her once and leave. You can trust me on that." Mark, however, didn't intend to listen to her request too. He denied it right away. "Sorry, but I don't trust you. You are someone who was even willing to see your husband bow his head in humiliation rather than lending your strength. In fact, with your strength, you wouldn't need to send me away in secret. You wouldn't have worried about giving birth to a baby without the potential to become a spirit warrior. You could just stop your husband as he played around with the lives of the women. With you helping your husband, he wouldn't have depended on the major noble clans and perhaps be more righteous in his rule. The princes and the nobles would probably be more afraid of committing crimes against commoners. Just a word from you would have been enough to make Li Zheng Kang and your dear mother-in-law stop their nefarious schemes of killing the innocents in the name of protecting your family's dignity. A demigod in the imperial family of Phoenix will bring the foreigners to come here and settle. The Phoenix Empire would have been more prosperous. The Phoenix Empire would have gotten more allies. Perhaps I would have grown up as a prince and probably look up to you, trying to work hard as I follow the path of righteousness. But you chose to hide your strength and behaved as if you are a civilian. Why? It's because you are afraid that your husband won't love you when he realizes that you are a demigod that can destroy his whole empire on a whim. He would fear you. To protect your secret, you continued to act for decades as a helpless queen who cannot do anything about the issues in the empire. Now tell me, do you think you are trusted worthy? Chapter 444, The Lamp of Wishes, Alan's Surprising Request. Lan Jingyi has no answer for Mark's accusation, and she didn't appear to be interested to defend herself too. In the end, after a long silence, she rose to his feet and said, "I understand that you won't trust me no matter what kind of reason I give you. But I will have to say these words whether you believe them or not, Shang Zhen. It is true that I acted as a civilian, and I ignored his actions as I was afraid of ruining my marriage. However, I didn't abandon you. Rather, it is the opposite. If I didn't keep you away from me to change your fate, you would have passed away on your 25th birthday. I truly regretted it when I heard you were dead along with your parents. I can't do anything about it, but what I can do now is to tell you the complete truth when you are ready to hear it. Before I leave, I assure you that your secret will be safe with me, but I will not give up on searching for my daughter too." She turned around and started walking away. "Great statement, but why do you think?" Mark wanted to say that he wouldn't allow her to leave as she pleased, but taking him by surprise, Lan Jingyi turned into a blur and disappeared from his sight. "What the?" Mark stood up on his feet at once, shocked by what he witnessed so far. "System, shouldn't my store disable the powers of even demigods? How did she teleport away?" Mark fired at his system. Ding, the host confirmed that he no longer considers the Imperial City as home. Hence, the store is no longer considered as the main branch. The skills exclusive to the store were disabled. Why didn't you say it before? Mark raised his voice, feeling like he had almost shot in his own foot just now. What would have happened if he had attacked Lan Jingyi and then realizes that her powers aren't sealed? Of course, she might have forgiven him based on the fact that she is his mother and still has feelings of guilt. However, it will also affect his justification as he brings down the Shang dynasty. The frustration made him shout at the system, which coolly responded with a notification. Ding, the system remembers informing the host about such a rule long ago. It isn't the fault of the system if the host forgets it. Mark's face reddened further as frustration turned into embarrassment. Fine, it's my fault. Since you disabled the skills, then you could transfer it to the branch at Lunaris City. Ding, do you wish to switch your main branch from Imperial City to Lunaris City? Ding, note. The current store at Imperial City will turn into a branch and will replace the branch store at Lunaris City in the side quest. Note 2. The blueprint will be transferred to the new main branch. There's a side quest that asked him to open branches in different cities and make a sale of 1,000 weapons per each. Shifting the main branch would be a good idea, as the store at the Imperial City has already attained fame enough to pull in the crowds. However, the following note stated that the residence will also be shifted. It'll turn the 6-story tower into a residential mansion. More than an upgrade, it could be a downgrade. Hence, Mark threw away such an idea and planned to create a main store somewhere else. Furthermore, he had another question in his mind he would have to solve. Before Lan Jingyi left, she said that if she didn't abandon him, he would die on his 25th birthday. Lu Zhen's parents always celebrated his birthday on the 4th day of the 10th month of the year. After their deaths, he found that it was false from a family friend with whom he had worked for 10 years. Lu Zhen didn't care much about it as he felt his birthday no longer mattered. Meanwhile, the third prince celebrates on 4th day of the 7th month of the year. Mark knew that his soul was merged with Lu Zhen's soul on the same day as his real birthday. Hence, technically, Lu Zhen died on the day he turned 25. Then did Lan Jingyi foresee his death? How? Even after what she indirectly termed as a sacrifice for the greater good, it still happened. An irremovable curse, or some kind of hereditary disease. Mark didn't know what it is, but he knew that the time will come again. He has to be patient for now. Mark went into meditation for a while in order to clear his head of any messy thoughts. As the sun set in the west, the darkness loomed over the empire. At the imperial palace, the emperor announced the scores of the contenders. Shang Wei took the lead with almost perfect marks, 285, followed by Shang Jun, 150, then Shang Xiang, 100, and finally Shang Zexi, 90. After their results were out, everyone was dismissed and told to wait for the next day. Meanwhile, Mark was served dinner by Alan. As he was eating, the android kept on staring at him until the former questioned him. "What is it, Alan? You look like you want to say something." Mark urged him to speak without any hesitation. Alan took a couple of seconds and then asked, "I was just wondering what it feels like to love someone." "Love?" Mark looked at him in wonder. "Why the sudden curiosity?" he asked. Lin Zhu. Alan was about to tell about his talk with Lin Zhu, but for some reason he couldn't say it. He covered it up by saying, "Nothing. Earlier Sister Zhu was talking about you and Lady Song loving each other and caring for each other. I'm just curious and wanted to confirm something. Big bro, tell me please." Alan didn't realize himself, but just now, he lied to the only one who he stays loyal. As he urged Mark, the latter answered with a smile while remembering Song Yue. "It is actually tough to explain. But if I had to simplify, when you love someone, you would have a strong emotional bond with the person. Just thinking about your love will bring a smile to your face. You would miss her greatly when you are alone. When you are happy, you would want to share it with her first. When you are sad, she is the last person you would want to share it with. Even if you are the strongest person in the world, you would still feel vulnerable in her presence, and you enjoy such a feeling." Everyone has their own way of expressing their love. But if you ask me, Song Yue is the light that filled the darkness in my heart. In her presence, I would forget about revenge and just feel like enjoying the present. If I had to make a choice between her and the rest of the world, at any given time, I wouldn't hesitate to burn the whole world. Does love have such power? Alan asked innocently. Mark smiled as he answered, "It's because you love someone with your heart, and the heart always has the power to suppress the logical reasoning of the brain." "Heart, huh?" Alan mumbled in a low tone as he placed his hand on his own chest. Mark continued with his dinner. He cut a large piece of steak and stuffed his mouth, enjoying the taste. As he was busy chewing it, Alan suddenly spoke, "Big bro, I want to become a human. Can you use the lamp of wishes to turn me into a human?" Cough, cough. Mark swallowed at once due to the shock. For a couple of seconds, he suffocated with the food stuck in his throat. Alan hurriedly gave him the glass of water. He hurriedly drank it and swallowed down the whole. Placing it on the table, he looked at the android. "What did you say?" Chapter 445, Forbidden Love, The Decision to Become Human. A couple of minutes later, an eerie silence filled in the room. Mark didn't know what to speak either. An android and a human loving each other. Perhaps only in movies he saw such weird things. And then Lin Zhu knows the truth and breaks off their relationship. For a moment he felt like a side character, and Alan was the main character of the story. It was quite cinematic. But then again, this is reality. Such a taboo relationship isn't acceptable here, and that is why Alan wanted to become a human. It wasn't as if he doesn't understand Alan's sincerity. He even confirmed with the system that it can create a physical body for Alan and transfer his core into the body. The new body will not have any soul and will die when the core is destroyed. However, doing this would not only disconnect Alan and Mark, but the latter even had to sacrifice the lamp of wishes, as the cooldown timer will be 10 years before using it again. As a part of his explanation, he even promised to make a new body for Elena as long as they can gather the required materials. But it is a tough decision for Mark. On one hand, he wants to help out Alan's love, and on another hand, he doesn't want to take unnecessary risks. As Mark was thinking about what decision he should take, Alan then further said, "Big bro, in my current situation, I'm not strong enough to guard you, and neither could I help you in innovations as it would waste my skills. After turning into a human, I plan to turn into a weapon research specialist. The knowledge I receive from the system so far will be enough for me to help you in setting up a research facility. In the meantime, we can study the physical body I left behind for our Project Android to create a perfect body for Elena. Until then, Elena can stay in the Cerberus, robotic version of Cerberus. Let me assist you in Project C." Mark thought for a bit. If it was someone else, perhaps, Mark would have thought about the pros and cons. However, Alan is someone special to him. As he earlier mentioned, the heart has the power to control the logic of the brain when such special people are involved. Mark wanted to see Alan happier. Taking a deep breath, Mark spoke softly, his voice filled with a mix of concern and determination. "Alan, I understand you, but before taking the decision, I need to talk with Lin Zhu. I want to see if she truly loves you as you described or if it is just your delusion." Alan replied, "It might be a bit tough as she was emotionally unstable at the moment. However, I can share with you the recorded data of our last meeting." "Okay, do it." Mark went on to watch the recording. Alan was quite uncomfortable while sharing the memory of that night, but if he wants the approval of his big bro, there was no way out of it. Upon watching the whole clip, Mark could only let out a deep sigh and nodded slowly. "I see that she acted quite emotional for someone known to be cold and elusive, and she also seems to be deeply broken by your truth. All right, I support your love. I will turn you into a human, Alan." Alan's face glowed brightly in happiness and he kowtowed right away, expressing his thankfulness. "I'm grateful to have an owner like you, big bro. It is out of my calculations to see such a day." Mark sighed again as he commented, I didn't expect to see such a day either." Sometime later. System, open the blueprint section. A series of blueprints appeared on the holographic screen. He needs to spend 800,000 credits to complete the side quest and acquire the Lamp of Wishes and the Staff of Blessing at the same time. Hence, he decided to upgrade his store instead of spending it all on purchasing skills or items. The current one stands at 25,000 gold coins, somewhere in the middle. However, he had to spend a lot, so he didn't look at anything else on the way and just scrolled and scrolled to the right until he entered the high-end section. The blueprint goes all the way to 1,000,000,000 gold coins. Hence, he didn't go too far and just looked around the 410 million range. In the end, he chose the one with a price of about 6.5 million gold coins, i.e. 1.3 million credits. Ding, upgrade the interior of the store right now. How long it will take for the upgrade? Mark asked. The last time he upgraded the store, it took 3 hours. Ding, the renovation will take 715 hours, i.e. 29 days and 19 hours. That long? Don't you think you are taking too much time? Mark was slightly taken aback by the completion time. If such a building will take more than a month time, what if he chose the most expensive interior? Will it take years? However, the system is always known to counter its host. Without any surprise, the system replied to him. Ding, in your past life terms and calculating the price of gold during the time of the host's death, right now, the host put an order to build a $5 billion palace with state-of-the-art facilities, and still expecting it to be done in 24 hours or something. Mark could feel like the system appears to be angry or annoyed. He ended the argument right away. Fair enough, but we won't proceed with the replacement right now. Put it on hold and drag the blueprint right to the front. I don't want to waste too much time with scrolling again. Ding affirmed. Mark closed the window without proceeding with the purchase, as he intended to sleep there for the night. Alan was connected with Mark, and he knew how his master will proceed with the purchase, as well as the upgrade in the morning. He couldn't help but become excited, and he wanted to tell this good news to Lin Zhu. Perhaps Mark's latest briefing about love had an effect on him. Alan couldn't just stop smiling as he imagined the girl. As midnight arrived, he left the store and made his way to the Lin mansion. Chapter 446, Return of Elena. Mark's factory. Mark's spirit entered his factory space, and the assistant robots proceeded with assembling all the parts. This time, the robotic Cerberus was connected to a large external battery, which was fully powered. The whole thing was brought to the testing space, and Mark proceeded with the launch. Mark landed on its back to activate it. Just as he was about to switch it on, Mark took back his hand in nervousness. No, let's not risk this. Mark remembered Alan's advice and wondered if he could integrate Elena's core into this robot by himself. But he doesn't want to risk getting it damaged either. Hence, he consulted the system. System, can the core get damaged if something unexpected happens in this project? The system was always quick to reply. Ding, negative. The exterior of the core is made from adamantium alloy, which can resist the attack of even a demigod. Then this is safe, I guess. Mark brought the robot back to his lab and dismantled its upper body. A couple of hours later, with the help of assistant robots in the factory, he managed to build a cube-shaped battery compartment somewhere below its joint neck. The connection to the external battery isn't removed as he inserted the glowing cube, taken from his inventory, into the battery compartment. Mark felt like the cube needed a jump start. The rest of the body was reassembled and then brought back to the testing space once again. Landing on its back, Mark took a deep breath and reached out to the switch. Please let it work, please let it work. Filled with nervousness, Mark switched it on and then jumped onto the ground. A tremendous amount of electrical power was released by the 500Ah battery and entered the robot. The glowing cube glowed more brightly, powering up everything in a couple of seconds. As the life came to the 6 eyes of the robotic Cerberus, instead of barking like it was designed, the middle head spoke in a human speech, and surprisingly, that too, in a female pitch he was familiar with. Big brother, I can move. It let out a scream of delight as it extended its head toward Mark. Not being able to stop smiling, the latter touched the head and spoke, "Welcome back, Elena." He doesn't need to question the three-headed robot further to ascertain that she is his Elena. "Sorry for taking so long." "I missed you," replied Elena, without feeling any discomfort in the body of a robotic dog. Meanwhile, at Lin Wang's mansion, Alan was sitting on the window as he was silently staring at the sleeping beauty. Usually, this can be considered creepy, but the android has yet to understand such logic of privacy. He was just savoring the moment as he found her more beautiful for some reason. There was warmness in his core and he couldn't stop smiling, but it is quite difficult to understand what this new type of feeling he was experiencing. Taking Mark's lessons as advice, the android felt like this is probably love. He doesn't want to disturb her sleep and neither does he want to leave. Hence, during the whole night he just stared at her until it was dawn. By the time he returned to the store, Mark was found to be asleep, but he wasn't alone in the store. There was a 7-foot big three-headed robot dog lying in the living room, just like a dog does as it sleeps. There are a few books spread around it. One of them is opened. Upon his entry, it quickly woke up and looked at the android, Alan. Alan scanned it for a second and exclaimed in surprise, "Elena, did Big Bro manage to integrate your core with it? Wow, he is really a genius." "Humph, of course. My Mark is the trailblazer, crafting the weapons that will define the future," replied Elena, filled with pride in her voice. "Your Mark?" As Alan raised his eyebrow, Elena patted the floor with his right paw, a figure of speech lover boy. "Accessed Mark's memories and saw that you want to become a human because of Lady Lin. You want to marry her, huh? I'm really proud of you, my elder brother. You get to bang the beauty. I almost once had sex with Mark, but you interrupted in a timely manner. Back then, I didn't think much, but now, it seemed like that kissing was a good experience." Alan blushed in embarrassment before scolding her. "Hey, watch your language, will you? Grow up, bro. When you become a human, you'll be an adult. Hence, you should also behave like one. According to these books, once you were lovers, you could hold hands and embrace each other every once in a while, and could only have sex after you married. Or you visit a brothel if you want non-commitment sex. It was said that people often go there to experience it so that they get to perform better with their spouses. There were quite an amount of techniques described in the fourth novel. Even the main protagonist, Leon, went there with his troublesome buddies. After turning into a human, I think you should." "I believe Big Bro told you to stop reading those erotic novels," interrupted Mark, as he was too embarrassed to hear her anymore. Furthermore, she wasn't in android form. Such words coming from a robotic Cerberus appeared even weirder. Elena let out a sigh, and her robotic heads collapsed on the floor as she replied, "I was too bored." "Well, it won't be long before we leave this place, so you just have to wait for a bit." Alan reminded her about the renovation while thinking about his upcoming new transformation. Soon Mark woke up from his sleep, freshened up and sat for breakfast. Alan sat patiently as Mark was having the food. He, however, became restless as every second of waiting felt like an hour. Once Mark was done, Alan could no longer wait and reminded him about the upgrade. Elena couldn't help herself teasing him again as soon as she saw the opportunity. Our dear Alan couldn't wait to prove his manhood to his lover, eh? Alan got irritated quickly. "Would you stop being so dirty, Elena? Ever since you were reborn in this robotic Cerberus, your speech is becoming uncontrollable." Ho, our dear bridegroom is getting angry. As Elena continued to tease her older brother, Mark stopped her. "Okay, that's enough. Let's have a serious discussion. Alan, sit down." As the android took his seat, Mark looked straight into his eyes and said, "Mark, before taking this decision, you should remember one thing. Once you become a human, there's no coming back, not because there isn't a way or something. It is because you are taking a decision on your own and I don't want you to have regrets. Whatever it might be, you will have to stick with your decision. Understood?" Alan nodded firmly. "Good, then let's get this done." Mark opened the blueprint section and proceeded with the upgrade. Ding, 1.3 million credits have been deducted. Ding, system expansion is about to start in 5 seconds. Ding, you completed the side quest III and received Staff of Blessing and Lamp of Wishes as a reward. Ding, you received a new side quest. Chapter 447, Secret Ally for the Crown Prince, Mark's role in the trial. As the black-colored barrier enveloped the store, Mark and Alan get transported out of the store. As for Elena, since she wasn't an android, she could be placed in the inventory. Hence, Mark stored her in one of his inventory slots before getting kicked out. After coming out in the open, Mark didn't waste time in equipping the exoskeleton suit and flew away. Alan followed him from behind until they reach a remote location with nothing but wild trees and plants around. Open inventory. From the inventory, he then took out an object that resembled a genie's lamp. Do I need to rub it or something? He wondered. Ding, you got it correctly. Assuming that a familiar-looking genie will come out of the magical lamp, Mark rubbed it on its side. Come out, genie, and grant my wishes. However, only smoke came out. There is no genie inside the lamp. Instead, he just got a notification. Ding, you used the Lamp of Wishes. The host may now state the wish. According to the wish, if it could be granted, the cooldown timer will change. Warning, please be careful when asking for the wish. The wrong choice of words might bring calamity to the host. With his cheeks reddened in embarrassment, Mark didn't argue with the system and spoke out loud. I wish for a healthy, functioning human body for Alan's core to transfer into. Now for the conditions. It should have the same appearance as his current self, but include all parts of a healthy adult male. The system should transfer his core into his new human body and not take his android body that was left behind. All of his current abilities and rank should be retained by his new body. Ding, is that all? Once the wish was locked in, it cannot be changed. Mark thought. Since you are already giving me a wish, I might as well add powers. Nah, if I will become too greedy, the cooldown timer will become so high that it will be unusable anymore. Let's just add a simple thing. He then said, the new body shall possess the light attribute and remain the owner of Ares, the Sword of Light. Ding, locked in the wish. Proceed. Ding, please wait for a while, calculating. 10 seconds later. Ding, the wish shall be granted and has a cooldown timer of 12 years, 6 months and 15 days. Note, the host cannot change the wish and can only modify it. Proceed with the wish system. Ding, proceeding with the wish. Mark's forehead brightly glowed in the next second before shooting out a beam of golden energy toward Alan. As the android was hit with it, he collapsed on the ground and his core was extracted by the system before dragging it into Mark's body. Ding, the process has been started. Estimated time for completion, 176 days. Ding, trade Alan's android body for 20 million credits. No thanks. Mark placed Alan's body in the inventory as he rejected the system's offer. However, strangely, the system didn't stop. Ding, trade Alan's android body for rank 6 android. A rank 6 android, Mark felt slightly suspicious. Why would the system offer such a deal? Nevertheless, he wasn't interested in selling it. Nope, he rejected it again. Little did he expect that the system didn't back down. It stayed persistent in acquiring the body. Ding, trade Alan's android body for rank 7 android. A rank 7 android. It was then Mark felt too suspicious. As he remembered how the system attempted quite a few times on acquiring Alan, he couldn't help but ask, what is Alan's specialty? Is there a secret in his body or something? Ding, Alan's body was augmented by the upgrade crystals. Nope, even before that, you were interested in retrieving Alan from me, Mark argued back. This time, he felt like the system is hiding something. Ding, Alan's body is made of superior materials and is more precious than the rest. What kind of materials? Mark asked. But this time, there was no response from the system. Humph, I can find it out myself. Mark planned to research it anyways. Hence, he thought the system's silence shouldn't be a big deal. Opening up a portal, he returned to Lunaris City and traveled to the royal palace by his vehicle. Roughly around a couple of hours later, at the imperial palace, The 4 contenders were summoned to the imperial court just like the earlier day. Emperor Shang then announced the second stage of the trial. Once again, they were locked in private chambers filled with hundreds of scrolls according to their difficulty. However, this round is about solving the riddles. The contenders are presented with a series of riddles and brain teasers that test their problem-solving skills and lateral thinking. They must unravel the mysteries and provide correct answers within a time limit. As the highest scorer of the previous trial, Shang Jun gets to choose once again. Even for the remaining 5 stages of the trial's second phase, he will be the first to choose too. Once again, he chose the second most difficult one. Shang Xiang also chose a safe route. However, the crown prince went with the toughest one, not intending to give an opportunity for his brother to get ahead of him in the race. And he lost this gamble as he wasn't as smart and intelligent as Shang Wei. Once again, he ended up getting the lowest score. The following day, they weren't locked anymore. Instead, a philosophical debate was conducted in front of the ministers and officials. Contenders must engage in a lively debate on philosophical topics and ethical dilemmas. They must present logical arguments, demonstrate critical thinking, and defend their positions against opposing viewpoints. In this round, a heavy competition occurred between Shang Wei and Shang Jun, but the third prince eventually won the most score. On day 4, contenders were faced with a simulated diplomatic scenario where they must negotiate and resolve conflicts between different factions or kingdoms. Their ability to navigate complex political situations, foster alliances, and find peaceful resolutions will be evaluated. Here, Shang Jun excelled the most. Despite the fact that Emperor Shang is rooting for his children, he couldn't help but praise Shang Jun's diplomatic ways, although it was only in theory. On day 5, contenders are presented with a strategic warfare scenario and must devise comprehensive battle plans to overcome challenges and achieve victory. They must demonstrate tactical acumen, resource management, and adaptability in their strategies. Once again, Shang Jun excelled here. On day 6, contenders were presented with a series of ethical dilemmas and must make difficult decisions that impact the well-being of the empire and its people. Their ability to weigh consequences, consider multiple perspectives, and make wise judgments will be scrutinized. Shang Wei won this stage. By the end of day 6, Shang Wei was slightly leading with a score of 1245. Shang Jun was in second with a score of 1198. Shang Xiang was in third place with a score of 640, and Shang Zexi was in last place with a score of 610. The officials, the ministers, and the public weren't interested in who will emerge as the first in this trial. They wanted to know who will be eliminated. Only one last stage in the second trial remained, and Shang Zexi wanted to make sure that he gets qualified for the next trial. The final stage of this trial is a test for leadership. Contenders are given a group of individuals with varying skills and personalities and must lead them through a challenging task or obstacle. Their leadership qualities, including decision-making, communication, and motivation, will be assessed. The 3 contenders arrived at the court to receive their helpers. But the fourth one never arrived even as the time crossed 9:30 in the morning, bringing a frown to the emperor. The servants couldn't find him in his allotted room either. "Someone go and fetch Shang Xiang this instant," said the displeased emperor. Shang Wen, the second prince, responded to it, "Your Majesty, I'll go and investigate the matter." The crown prince, who seemed very pleased by the incident, stated his opinion. "Your Majesty, we cannot delay the trial any longer. It's already been more than 30 minutes. Those who don't give value to the time of the imperial court don't deserve to be your successor. I suggest you disqualify him right away." "Yes, Your Majesty. I agree, Your Majesty. The crown prince is right, Your Majesty." The 3 ministers who are in Shang Zexi's camp chimed along so that their prince will be saved. Meanwhile, Shang Jun and Shang Wei glanced suspiciously at the crown prince, wondering whether he has something to do with it. Chapter 448. Unveiled: Trials, Rivalries, and Hidden Agendas. 2 hours and 30 minutes later. As the time reached noon, Shang Wen returned to the court with a piece of bad news that Shang Xiang, the Grand Prince, is nowhere to be found. Following the rules, Emperor Shang announced the disqualification of Shang Xiang and just ended the trial with Shang Wei as the winner. Everyone was dismissed and given a break for the rest of the day. Shang Jun, Shang Wei, and Shang Zexi proceeded to the next trial, which is called the Trial of Strength. This trial is quite straightforward. They shall choose their teammates and fight by Zun in the arena in a 2v1 battle. The only condition is that the selected teammate must be someone who works for the military. Retired or active duty, it doesn't matter. Shang Wei was leading in the previous trial. Hence, he got the opportunity to choose his teammate before the others. Without any hesitation, he went for his brother. Shang Wen accepted it as he too was rooting for the third prince in his heart. Shang Zexi cried fouled in his heart, but he cannot do anything about it. First of all, Shang Wei has the privilege. Secondly, the relationship between him, Crown Prince, and the second prince isn't so great that the latter would work with him. And then, Shang Jun surprised everyone by choosing General Hu, the one who was captured by Mark and released by Western Moon, as his teammate. That leaves Shang Zexi with 2 generals and 4 vice-generals to choose from the active-duty soldiers. The remaining ones are all in 5 circle or below realms despite their huge numbers. As for the retired soldiers, they are either too old or suffering from a disability. No sane person would pick them for a battle. As a result, Shang Zexi had to pick up General Yan, the one who commands the Northern Imperial Army while staying in the Imperial City. They were given 5 days of preparations to increase their strength, improve teamwork, develop strategies, etc. Meanwhile, in the Western Moon Kingdom. Okay, that's it for today. We'll resume the training tomorrow with explosives, said Mark to the Royal Knights. There's Song Yue and Zai Mei in the group too. The former was gleaming in excitement while the latter looked very depressed. As for Song Yun, he just stayed on the side as if he doesn't exist. Soon, the 4 of them started returning to the palace. On the way, Song Yue was chattering non-stop about how she has improved so greatly during the past few days. On the other hand, Zai Mei stayed silent as she was following them. For the past couple of weeks, Mark spent most of his time training the soldiers. Originally, for the following week, he planned to tour all over the kingdom to choose the right spots for airstrips and runways. But as he was stuck with the newly formed firearms division, his plans were postponed a bit. Not wanting to just stay as a trainer all the time, he included Song Yue in his training so that he gets valuable time to spend with her. Zai Mei also joined them with an excuse of mastering the sniping rifle. Of course, there's also an underlying motivation of impressing the guy she is determined to marry. But the reality struck her quite hard. As a person who devoted to archery since she was a child, it is tough for her to handle the guns despite her superior eyesight. As if that wasn't bad enough, Song Yue's superior talent in handling the gun frustrated her even more. In her eyes, this woman who Mark loves is an individual who cannot do cooking, house chores, fight, or even has the potential to reach high cultivation realms. All Song Yue had is the beauty and gracefulness of a noble lady. While there were no ill feelings between Song Yue and Zai Mei, the latter believes herself superior to the former in every way except for age and driving the unique vehicle. When she was badly defeated by Song Yue in the art of firearms, she was shocked, but then told herself that it is not the difference in talent. She thought that it is the difference in experience. While she was depressed about losing, she was determined to surpass her as fast as possible. The only problem was that she knew Mark wouldn't cooperate to fulfill her ambitions. Hence, she decided to opt for a different method. Upon reaching the royal palace, she didn't talk much and returned to her room with an excuse of showering. Mark and Song Yue didn't pay much attention to her, as they were busy chatting about their wedding plans. Song Yue was talking about consulting the fortune teller recommended by Princess Shen Ling, but Mark was skeptical about such things. He doesn't want to say no, but doesn't want to listen to the fortune teller or his pieces of advice either. Hence, he decided to make a personal visit to the fortune teller before their official visit. Time passed away and midnight arrived. Mark sat on his bed and closed his eyes. He concentrated on establishing a connection with one of the ancient beasts on his private island. Since the distance isn't that high, the two-way telepathic communication was set up easily. "How is our new hostage doing? Any resistance?" "Doesn't matter, just don't kill him. That's all. Break his legs and heal them again and again if it is necessary." "Is Shang Jiao going to break through very soon?" "Oh, Yang volunteered to spar her for today. That's new." "Okay, what about your progress?" "You all need to make the breakthrough to 7th Circle within the next 5 days, even if you had to eat every spirit beast living in the ocean. It will be tough to keep 3 of them there if you couldn't do it. I know that the 4 of you could work together to cast a grand barrier over the island, but still, you have to be careful. You cannot underestimate anyone with a strong bloodline like Blizzard Pegasus or Phoenix. Just a few months of wait, you all will find a new home that you like. Until then, please be patient." "Okay, I need to sleep. I'm severing the connection." Once he was done conversing with the leader of his 4 mythical beasts, Xuanwu, the black tortoise, he lay down on the bed and took a nap for a couple of minutes before deciding to enter the factory. Chapter 449, Unleashing Song, The Birth of a Formidable Missile. In the factory, the robotic Cerberus Elena was seen lying on the floor and sleeping. Elena opened her eyes at once as she sensed her master's presence. "Big brother," she greeted him by jumping onto him like a real puppy. Mark hurriedly dodged and scolded her. "Hey, do you want to crush me or something?" "Oops," Elena apologized, although her tone suggested that she was trying to act silly, not a heartfelt one. "Forget it, follow me." Mark didn't care about it and just walked to the table while Elena followed him from behind. He smiled as he looked at the parts spread all over the long table. "Let's finish this up." Half an hour later, they have what seemed like a 2-story building-sized missile, which is currently incomplete. Now for the warhead. Mark didn't have any technology to create them from scratch. Hence, he used the loophole and dismantled the nuclear BrahMos missile he purchased to integrate with Gripen aircraft through some modifications. He used his 9.6 points of strength to take out the 300 kg spherical warhead from the BrahMos missile and inserted it in the nuclear version of his. Another 20 minutes later, an 8.6 meters missile was finally completed. Rubbing his palms in excitement, Mark mumbled, now only testing it remained. It was then Elena reminded him, "This missile is based on the BrahMos missile itself. Hence, this can only be fired by that one specific Gripen aircraft you have modified for the BrahMos missile during the past week. But you still don't know how to fly and Alan isn't available for the moment. What will you do about it?" Mark smiled in response. "I don't plan on firing it from the aircraft." Elena was taken aback for a second. Unlike in the past, she isn't connected to his mind and doesn't know what her master was thinking. Hence, she can only analyze it through logic. Mark first transferred the missile and Elena to the testing place with a thought in his mind. He then opened the inventory to take out what seemed like a truck with 12 wheels. But it has 4 launching tubes in the back and other machinery. "I purchased this specifically for BrahMos missile, as I thought it is best to have a land-based launcher as those LARS systems underperformed in the recent war. It only cost me 300,000 credits to unlock this, and each unit only cost 20,000 gold coins to purchase." As Mark explained his strategy, Elena argued, "But I didn't see you modify it in any way. The new missile might have been inspired by BrahMos, but it is still a different one with different sets of mechanisms. On the other hand, this mobile autonomous launcher, MAL, is specifically designed for BrahMos. As if that wasn't troubling enough, you inserted the warhead. For a missile head, there is no need for a nuclear warhead, you know. I worry about system failure or worse, an accidental explosion during the launch." Mark smiled while waving his hand. "Relax. With luck on our side, there should be no fear of failure." A few days ago, during his weekly lottery wheel spinning, he won the mystery box. It has neither powerful items nor skills. Instead, he was given a choice to choose one reward between the two. One is a +1 stat card that can take any stat 1 realm above as long as it doesn't cross 10 points. It could even be applied to others. The other choice is a +2 luck card, which raises his luck points permanently. With the additional passive points from the Ring of Luck, he had now 9 points. He doesn't even need to absorb it from others to become a lucky person. Hence, everything is just going in his way lately. Even abducting Shang Xiang from the Imperial Palace became as easy as strolling in a park, and Lan Jingyi also appeared to be ignoring it. Back to the present, putting his hopes on his own luck points, Mark inserted the missile into the launching tube using a two-step transportation method, i.e. first transporting the missile to his inventory, and then equipping it in the launcher. After all, he cannot just carry a missile with over 2,800 kg of weight. Maybe he could if he practices enough, but for the moment, he opted for this smart method. The launcher provided by the system has the control system right in the driver's chamber, just like with the tanks. It made his job a lot easier. Mark sat inside and operated the vehicle. The launching tube slowly rose toward the sky. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Mark pressed the big red button that was seen beside the map screen with an X mark on a specific spot. At once, the missile was launched high into the air before changing its direction horizontally. The parts of its outer shell were coming off as it zoomed into the air like lightning. For the next 4 minutes there was nothing. Mark and Elena waited patiently, as this was in his calculations. On the 5th minute, he received a notification from the system. Ding, the missile test has been successful. It has hit a distance of more than 100 km. You have successfully completed the side quest. You unlocked all types of warheads in the gallery. Ding, would you like to register the missile? Yes. Ding, name the missile. Well, let's call it Song. Ding, missile Song was added to the system's data. Ding, you received 100,000 credits as a one-time payment, as you used the system's owned warhead. Missile Song. Length 8.62 meters. Diameter 0.67 meters. Weight 2627 kg, without warhead. Range 316 km, without warhead. Speed, supersonic, approximately Mach 2.9. Warhead 390 kg. Yield 42 kilotons. The energy released at the point of impact, 175 terajoules equivalent stats. Propulsion, twin-stage solid propellant booster followed by a liquid ramjet sustainer engine. Guidance system, inertial navigation system INS, combined with satellite navigation GPS, and an onboard active radar seeker for terminal guidance. Warhead, various warhead options are available, including high explosive, submunition, and nuclear variants. Weight and yield depend on the specific warhead. Launch platform can be launched from land-based mobile autonomous launchers, MAL, naval vessels, and aircraft. Operational capability. It can engage both land and sea targets, making it a versatile missile system. Price, 5,000 gold coins to 15,000 gold coins, depending on warhead. System score, 8.7. Comment, despite its different mechanisms, this can be considered as a variant of the BrahMos missile, nevertheless, a well-done job, host. The fuck, 11. Just 42 KT yield of TNT can kill the Immortals as long as they were hit directly. As Mark was shocked to see the result, suddenly, he remembered something he should have remembered a long time ago, when he got the Mark 14 nuclear bomb or acquired the antimatter attribute. The energy conversion. How did I forget such a simple thing? The actual energy released from a nuclear detonation is typically a fraction of the total energy contained in the nuclear material. Judging by the calculations, it seems to be 100% instead of the usual 40%. I think I need to study this lot more to understand how the system managed to do it. But then again, there is also something I learned. 6.9 MT yield can kill saints, while a mere 40 KT yield can destroy the immortals. If I remember correctly, I killed a peak rank 8 with the power of a normal lightning strike that has about 1 billion joules of energy. I guess I might need 100 gigajoules 1 terajoules of energy to take out Supreme Realm experts, and about 10 terajoules to 100 terajoules to take out demigods. Going this way, the Immortals' 11 circle would need about 100 terajoules to 1 petajoule of energy to get wiped out. For the Saints, it might be stretched from 10 petajoules to all the way to an exajoule. If I go at such length, Mark, you are going too far again. Just stay in the present. We have Warhead with us. Let's see what kind of them I can buy. He opened the gallery and scrolled until he found it in the form of a sphere. Warhead. Grade NA. Description: an explosive or destructive component of a missile, rocket, or other projectile. The host may decide its shape and mass according to needs. Price varies. He clicked on Purchase to test its price range. Ding, please select its type. High explosive HE, fragmentation warhead, shaped charge warhead, incendiary warhead, cluster munition warhead, chemical warhead, nuclear warhead, and antimatter warhead. Oh, there's antimatter warhead too. I guess it is added because I purchased the attribute. So cool. What are we waiting for? Chapter 450, the antimatter warhead. Ding, you selected antimatter warhead. Ding, please type the yield you desired in grams. Let's go with the base, Mark wrote 1, which should be equivalent to that of a 21.5 KT yield, enough to take out average demigods with ease. But the demanded price is far higher than an equivalent yield from a nuclear warhead. A nuclear warhead of such magnitude costs about 10,000 gold coins, but the antimatter warhead is 10 times higher. It is around 100,000 gold coins per warhead that only has 1 GM of antimatter. For 1 kg of antimatter warhead, the price spiked up as high as 100 million gold coins. It is not just because of the attribute. One should consider the costs of the high explosives and casings, neutron reflectors and tamper materials, safety and stabilization features, etc. Rather than depending on the system to manufacture these, Mark felt like he should just try to master the attribute and make his own. It is not like he doesn't know how to create antimatter explosives. Mark was confident about making them in the future, but for now, he purchased 9 warheads with 10 GM antimatter, each worth about 1 million gold coins, and 10 warheads with 1 GM antimatter, each worth about 100,000 gold coins. As a result, his wealth was further reduced by 2 million credits, leaving his net worth with only about 1.3 million credits and 11 million gold coins. It will still make him the richest individual in the Western Moon Kingdom, though. Usually, he would be happy to test them, but the high costs made him rethink it and just stored them in the inventory. Returning to the real world, he then slept for the rest of the night. The next day at dawn, Mark made his way to the training grounds. By sharp 6, the soldiers and everyone arrived. Song Yue ran late a little bit and arrived 15-20 minutes later, but she was alone. She informed Mark that Zai Mei and her griffin are missing. Mark didn't place too much attention to it, and replied that she probably had gone sightseeing as she told them during the earlier dinner. Song Yue thought it might be the case and focused on the training. Little did either of them know that the teenage girl had actually been standing in front of the store since dawn. She patiently waited for at least an hour before finally getting to see Meng Tao and Chang Bo. Thankfully for her, there were also no people around as the opening hours start at 9. They both recognized her and were quite surprised. Following them inside, she took a seat. "What is it, Lady Zai?" asked Chang Bo. Zai Mei looked at Meng Tao and replied, "Actually, I came for him." Me, Meng Tao was taken aback. This is only the second time he was seeing her, or maybe the third time. As Chang Bo was about to leave the two of them to talk in private, Zai Mei stopped him and requested him to keep this meeting a secret from their boss. As both of them nodded and Chang Bo left the room, Zai Mei then said, "Mr. Meng, I want you to train me." Train you? Meng Tao was confused once again. "You are a six-circle realm spirit warrior." He reminded her that he was weaker than her. Zai Mei shook her head with a smile. "I'm not talking in the traditional sense." "Then do you mean cooking?" he asked. Zai Mei shook her head once again, and this time, she became direct to clear his confusion. "I'm talking about firearms. I heard Lu Zhen once mention that you have the best skills in handling firearms after him and Alan. I vaguely remember watching your battle in the Dragon Warrior tournament. You do certainly have the skills despite the fact that you are self-trained." "Thank you for the praise, Ms. Zai, but—" As Meng Tao appeared to be like rejecting her request, the latter quickly interrupted with an offer: 10 ether crystals of high quality for 4 weeks of training. Deal. High quality. Meng Tao was tempted by the offer, as each of them will be sold for at least 1,000 gold coins in the market, and that too, when available. If he sells all of them as a package in the black market, he could fetch 20,000 gold coins with ease. That's an amount even his clan would struggle to pay someone. But the only problem is the time. How could he afford such time to spend on her training when he has a job to do? Not to mention, his boss, Mark, will be displeased if he knew about this. Seeing the guy still thinking about it, Zai Mei pushed it further by saying, "I won't take all of your time. Just 1 hour before dawn and 1 hour after dusk. 2 hours per day. Please help me." Meng Tao took a few seconds and nodded. "Okay. Great pleasure to be working with you, teacher." Zai Mei smiled as she bowed to him. Meng Tao awkwardly smiled as he waved his hands. "Please don't do that. Treat me more like a training partner or a mentor." "All right." Sector 3, Bloodhill Forest. In an ether mine secretly located within Sector 3, where rank 7 beasts like the werewolves roam around, the Necromancer King was busy absorbing the ether energy from the crystals around him and simultaneously refining it. His cultivation has grown from the elementary stage of the Supreme Realm to the peak stage. However, no matter what he does, he couldn't just break through to the demigod realm for some reason. It was as if an invincible wall that is blocking his progress. Eventually, the whole mine was dried up, but still, he has to see the success. The Necromancer King got frustrated. Why couldn't I just make a breakthrough? I guess the quality of the mine is the problem. I need to look at a better one." As he was prepared to leave the place, a voice was heard in the surroundings. "It wasn't a problem of the quality. Your method itself is wrong, Mr. Zia." The Necromancer King furrowed his brows and looked around. He saw no one and shouted, "Who is it? Come out." A figure materialized. He spoke with a smile. "Hello, I'm the current leader of the Church of Doom, and I'm here to help you on behalf of Lord Eugen." "Church of Doom?" The Necromancer King's frown deepened. "You are a successor to that bag of bones, Long Eugen."